out there, if you want to recommend someone to join or be appointed to Philadelphia's Board of Education, School District of Philadelphia, well, that process opens tomorrow. We have Chief Education Officer Otis Hackney joining us to talk a bit about that and how people can get engaged in that process, where everything is right now. How are you doing, sir? Mr. Hackney, thanks for joining us.
Good
Can you hear me?
morning.
All right,
Good
good morning.
morning. Thank you for having me on URD again.
All right, no, it's good to talk with you. Good to talk with you. So, this is a formal process to launch or to appoint 3 new members to the Board of Education. It's not for the entire Board of Education. This is just for 3 new members on the Board of Education. How does this process work? When is it open? Where do people go if they want to apply, if they want to get appointed? Let's start off with that.
Yes, correct. And it is to replace 3 or to fill 3 empty seats, because the school board is a collective board of 9. So first, let's just start where people can go to get information. They can go to phila.gov, phila.gov. Right on that first page, as soon as you go to the city's page, under announcements, it's right there for people to get information about the nominating process. So what needs to happen is there's a nominating panel that convenes, and they're the ones that receive the first set of applications, and that process is they're having their first meeting tomorrow, public meeting, and so that is going to happen. And the application process will be open until June 3rd. We know it's a tight window, but given
or June 3rd or December 3rd?
I mean, I'm sorry, December 3rd.
December 3rd.
December 3rd. Definitely don't want to wait that long. Thank you for catching me.
Right.
And so we want the best and brightest of Philadelphians that are able to participate on being the school board to apply to be a part of the process. It is a non-paid position, and it is appointed by the mayor. So I do make it very clear, because it is a lot of work. You are talking a good 15, almost 20 hours of volunteer service per week, on average. So it does take a lot of time, and folks that have the bandwidth and capacity to make sure that they can fill that role, to really serve the children of our city really well, and our teachers as well.
As people are listening to this and they're thinking about even either like they individually applying for a position like this, or attempting to get nominated for a position like this, or if they're thinking of someone in their family and their social network and their professional network to get appointed for something like this, what would you tell them about the type of person? What's the type of person that you're looking for, or what's the type of person that's built for a position like this?
Right. And I think, first, to go back to one, you just have to have the time and the bandwidth to do it. I think when people understand the complexity of the issues of the district, and then understanding that their role is governance, it's not, the operational side. I mean, if that's the case, I tell folks that you should work in the superintendent's office if you want to run the district. It's really understanding governance and being able to make sound decisions regarding policies that the district puts in place, and from a fiscal and fiduciary oversight for, a $4 billion budget. So you have to be able to, process those numbers, understand the impact that, there are limited resources. And so to do more of one thing, you have to do less of another, and make those tough decisions. And then also be able to, effectively communicate to the public. Their meetings are public, and there are times when you have to address the public. Sometimes you have to take the heat. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you might be able to give a little heat. But you really have to be really confident and comfortable in your own space to serve on the board and serve it well, because there are so many tough decisions. But it is for the ultimate goal to get better outcomes for students and a healthy and safe environment.
I'm real curious to see if there are any questions about this, Otis. So I do want to leave those phone lines open in case someone has a question. There's a person or two out there, because I'm sure there are a lot of questions, and I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point over the course of this nomination process. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. If you have a question for Philadelphia Chief Education Officer Otis Hackney, he's joining us here on Reality Check, talking about the new Board of Education member appointment process. There are 3 vacant seats on the Philadelphia Board of Education that are open right now. So the educational nominating panel process starts tomorrow, Tuesday, November 17th, There is a 3-week application window. The application closes at December 3rd, and you can sign up, or you can sign someone else up, or encourage someone to sign up, or nominate someone to be a member of the Philadelphia Board of Education. Only thing that worries about, and we talked about this before too, Otis, and um, you just said it, or you just kind of hinted at it a few moments ago. This takes an enormous amount of time.
Right.
Philadelphia, at the end of the day, is a very distressed city. Nearly 40% of the population's living in poverty. Most of the kids, like what it's 90% of the students in the Philadelphia school system are low income. And so I wonder, I mean, are we losing? I mean, the only type of people who I feel like can sign up for something like this are people who have the means, not just the time, but the economic means to be able to give up 15 or 20 hours a week to sit on the education board. So I wonder about that. I mean, is this something that's also tailored for someone who's living in those vulnerable, disadvantaged communities? Because we need more of that perspective on a school board like the Philadelphia School Board.
Right, and I remember I think last time when we had seats open, we had this, you raised that same question. And yeah. I know, yes, I understand that can be a challenge for many, but, we have to adhere to the rules of the Home Rule Charter around, appointments for the board, and that it is a voluntary position. So, yes, I know that it is it can be a challenge for those who may not have the economic resources to be on the board. And so I think it's also a factor of time. So if someone does have the time to do it, I think it is one of those things that they're willing to explore. But still, you want to make sure that anyone, and I'm trying to be very careful with this, because it's not to say that if someone is underemployed, that, when it comes to the complexities of the issues, you still have to have, the chops to, read legal briefings, to understand city or district contracts, I should say, understanding, really complex ed policy that comes from the federal and state level. And so it is, you need to have those skills. And if you can do that in concert with having a background, depending on what part of Philly you look. I grew up on 56th Street in West Philly. And so if you bring that background with you to the table, then that just adds another dynamic that is needed on the board. So I welcome individuals who have that background and perspective to come to the table, so that way they can actively participate in the governance and oversight of the district.
So it's a matter of, because I that's something I still want to explore, like because there are school boards out there where it's a paid position. I mean, at some point, do you feel like this could, but it depends on there being a change to the Home Rule Charter, to Philadelphia's Home Rule Charter, in order for that to take place, where this can become a paid position.
Oh, you're putting me in an awkward spot. I would hate to get ahead of the mayor or city council on what that would be.
No, I'm just saying that would be the city council, for example, needs to suggest a change to the Home Rule Charter to make these paid positions, because I just feel like this is a massive school set. This is about what, 200 and how many students? 220,000? Or I just want to look over.
And in addition to that, you don't have oversight over charter schools, but you do authorize and renew charter schools as well. So even though, a third of the city's children do attend charter schools, you still have some, oversight over at least outcomes that are happening on the charter school world as well. So no, it's a pretty sophisticated space to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. It could definitely lead to professional opportunities elsewhere, or if someone were looking to, perhaps use it as a platform for future elected office. So, I mean, there's some benefits, there's some perks that come along with that volunteer position. Otis, so the appointment process, can you give us any sense, sort of internally, what the mayor is looking for, what that committee is looking for, how that process will unfold? You've got a nominating panel of about 13 people.
Right.
So do we know what they're looking for? What's their criteria?
Yeah, and that's also part of the process tomorrow. We'll be delivering some guidance to the nominating panel tomorrow about what we're looking for. So, we're looking, one, just obviously, being a resident of the city of Philadelphia, those people who have children or have sent their children or worked in the school district or a charter school is helpful, so people understand understand, public education from different perspectives is important. And then I think the pieces that I hinted to earlier, and just understanding, having a good understanding of, large budgets, how those things work. And doesn't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you can't learn those things, but you just have to be a quick learner. Anyone coming on the board, especially when we're looking at the time, early in the calendar year, they're going to be walking into, the school district's budgeting process will be underway. There will be a lot of charter school authorization and renewal process. So they'll be walking right into a very busy time for the school board. And so being a quick study is going to be very important, so that way you can lend your voice as early as possible to different issues, and feel really confident and comfortable in the difficult votes that they may have before them. So that's what we do, and then we leave a lot of it, up to the nominating panel to do a really good job of vetting candidates to move forward for the mayor to meet with, because for every seat that's available, the nominating panel has to move 3 potential names. So we will get at least 9 names for these 3 seats. We'll probably get more. And then that group from the panel, from the group, the list of candidates that the panel moves forward, those will be the ones that the mayor meets with, and then he will have that final decision for the 3 that he would move forward. Because this year, what has happened, what's different than in previous terms, except for the last appointment, they also have council approval confirmation process. So once again, whoever is moved forward and by the mayor, they'll have to go before council, and they'll have to answer questions about their background, their perspective on education, their understanding of educational decisions. So it's going to be a more intense process than when we first
are there
brought the things back to local control.
Are there, filled up real quick, Otis, are there students on this? I'm not clear, or it's not clear to me that there are students on this nominating panel, actual existing current students.
No. So, no, there are no students on the nominating panel. There are, for the school board, there are 2 student representatives, but they're non-voting positions on the board. So I also, especially as a previous teacher and principal, I get that from former students or people who know me and how I feel about student voice, often ask me about, the role of students. But, the board did add, because there was supposed to be 1 position and an alternate, they made a board decision to just move both students to the school board, but there are no students on the panel.
Yeah, I wish that was different. Just kind of throwing my opinion out there. Wish it was like a couple of students at least on the nominating panel, but that's just me. But no, this is great. Otis Hackney, Chief Education Officer for WURD Philadelphia, talking about the nominating process for 3 open slots on the Philadelphia Board of Education. So go to phila.gov, correct? Phila.gov.
Correct. And it's on on the front page.
What was that again, Otis? I'm sorry.
And it's right on the first page as soon as you go to
right on the first page. Okay, excellent. Yep. Right on the first page right now. So go to, Tuesday it'll open up. Process is open for December 3rd. We'll remind people. It'd be great to have you back on too, Otis, to see how that process is going. Really appreciate this. This is important, an important local matter that we need to know about. So I really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime, and your producer knows how to find me when you need me. So no worries.
All right, excellent. Yeah, always good to talk with you, Otis. Thanks again. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll be heading into our weekly Monday roundtable here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know millennials make up the largest share of the U.S. population? They are known for being tech-savvy, practicing mindfulness, and being socially and ethically conscious. But they are also on track to be in worse health than previous generations. Pitch your best ideas, Philly. You have the power to help shape how we address millennial health and mental health challenges in our beloved city. We'll connect you with our mentors and get you ready for a pitch competition with our judges. Visit economyleague.org/wellcity.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. The school year is underway, but never before has that experience come in so many shapes and sizes. Is the education of your child being left to a smattering of clumsy in-person and virtual instruction? The COVID-19 crisis has created a market for untested virtual teaching models lacking true credibility. Maybe it's time to reconsider and exercise your choice. Maybe it's time to check out Commonwealth Charter Academy. Here are the benefits to your family. 1. An online education provided at no cost to you, complete with laptop, headset, and help with internet access. 2. Partnership with the market leader in cyber education with a nearly 20-year track record of world-class learning. And 3. Delivery of a safe, reliable, and comfortable education experience over the internet directly to the confines of your living room. Visit ccaeducate.me today and discover the gold standard of cyber education. That's ccaeducate.me.
Keeping you informed. As a community service, WURD Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about where you can get no-cost, barrier-free COVID-19 testing this week. These locations offer free flu shots and coronavirus testing. Tuesday, November 17th, from 12 noon till 4 p.m. at Esperanza, 4261 North 5th Street. Thursday, November 19th, from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. at Sharon Baptist Church, 3955 Conshohocken Avenue. Friday, November 20th, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Deliverance Evangelistic Church, 2001 West Lehigh Avenue. And Saturday, November 21st, from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. at the Leah Chorus Center, 1776 North Broad Street. Stay informed and stay well with WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. We're heading into our roundtable section here, which happens every Monday. We hold a bit of court on many national issues here on our Reality Check roundtable. We have our roundtablists joining us this morning. We've got Dr. Christopher Sebastian Parker, political science professor at the University of Washington, joining us, hailing from Seattle. He joins us by, I believe we're being joined by audio Skype. And also we have Dr. G.S. Potter, our regular roundtablist contributor here on Reality Check on WURD, contributing editor at thebnote.com, both joining us here on our Reality Check roundtable. How are you both doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hanging in.
All right, yes. Early in the morning out here.
Excellent, excellent. I know it is very top of the morning, real top of the morning to you, Dr. Parker. Really appreciate you coming back. It's been a while since we talked to you. And Dr. Potter, appreciate you on here as well. Dr. Potter, I'm going to start with you. You wrote this piece. It just dropped at the B Note last night, thebenote.com. Yeah, okay, Biden won, so what next? You get into a number of strategies that you feel communities of color, intersected communities should activate in a moment like this with Biden winning. Obviously, it's your conclusion that Democrats really didn't win. You know, Biden might have won, but Democrats didn't win. What are some of the next steps? Outline for us what those next steps should be and why that's important, specifically for people of color, intersected communities, as you call them.
Right. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you to you and the WURD family, because clearly Pennsylvania and Philadelphia were really important parts of the election, and the black voting bloc was immensely important part of that, and they couldn't have done it without you and without WURD. And it's been an honor and a privilege to even have share airspace with you. So thank you for that. I think moving forward, though, we really need to, for me, the 2020 election might be over, but the battle for 2024 has already begun. The battle for 2022 has already begun. And there's some key things. We didn't win. We really didn't win. We got 73 million white supremacists that are okay with the destruction of science. They're okay with white nationalism. They're okay with the Trump administration, and they're willing to come out and fight for him. And they won this. They pretty much won Congress. But, the Democrats really should have overtaken both houses, and they didn't make any movement whatsoever. So I think a couple things that they need to do, and that we need to do as people of color, and recognize that white people are not going to do this for us, is we need to know how the party structure works. A lot of the strategies that come out of the Democratic Party, especially for presidential elections, are run by the Democratic National Convention, the party power structure itself, and we're not participating in that power structure. So we need to get really clear on how that works and how we can get our people in key positions within the party so that we're directing the strategies moving forward. We also need to recognize that those strategies needed to be rooted in a coalition of folks. We can't beat white people on our own. No person of color demographic is large enough, strong enough, coordinated enough to actually do this on our own. We need to do it together. And if we do it together, numerically, we outnumber white folks, we outnumber white nationalists, we outnumber white apologists. But we have to stop putting communities against each other, pitting communities against each other. We need to start not only working with racial coalitions, but putting poor folks, disabled folks, LGBTQ community folks at the center, because that's where we find out, okay, how are they winning? What strategies are they using against the most disenfranchised? And if we know those, then we know how to work up from there and fight the rest of the strategies against us. And then one of the main things that I wrote about is that protest is dead. As much as it kills me to say that, I come up as an organizer. Protest is not what's going to get us there. It might have been the cool new thing in the 70s that was really our source of power, but we need to think more strategically, especially in a time of a pandemic where we shouldn't really be in large groups killing each other and killing our own family members. So we need to think, how do we target economically? How do we target the system? How do we target things politically? How do we target things, and in the workplace? So how do we do it without relying just on protests that really, makes us feel better? It gets on the news, it gets social media likes, but it's not going to get us there.
Yeah, Professor Parker, and thanks for those thoughts, Dr. Potter, but Professor Parker, want to get your thoughts, kind of respond to what G.S. Potter was saying, but also, I was reading recently, you were interviewed, this was, right at the height of this election, the Seattle Times, you were being interviewed, and you were talking about how it's a good thing on balance that Trump was elected, because it rips the Band-Aid off on a lot of this stuff, the racism, the sexism, the xenophobia, the homophobia, all that stuff that's already been there, hasn't been bubbling under the surface, has been bubbled to the surface. So what do you find in a time like this? Okay, so now the elections happen, so now what? And is that Band-Aid still off? And I mean, are there some benefits or some opportunities that come with that, making people, one, become more aware and realize that, hey, we need more aggressive action on these challenges, on these dangers and threats that we face?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me back. I really appreciate that, and I really like what Dr. Potter had to say. But one of the things I would like to say is I'm glad she came back and adjusted what she said earlier in saying that we can't rely on protest. And I do believe, I think she hit the nail around the head with protest can't be the only thing, but protest remains very, very, very important in that it brings a lot of media attention, it mobilizes people and the like. So I want to thank her for saying that. I do think that, this is very important in that, it rips a Band-Aid off of all this stuff. And it really woke white people up, a lot of white people up. I mean, with the murder of George Floyd and what happened with Breonna Taylor. And one of the things we do need to, one of the things I do want to bring up, hopefully today or maybe some other time, is trying to figure out why so many black men supported Trump, right? I'm still trying to figure that one out myself. And the reason why I bring that up is because the prosecutor, the attorney general in Kentucky, he basically gave these white cops a pass when it came to the murder of Breonna Taylor. So I just kind of wanted to hit on that real quick. We can talk about that now. We can talk about that some other time. But we have to get our own act together, right? We can't just complain about, white people. Yeah, we can complain about white people, but there are enough of us that voted for this idiot, right? Where we need to try to get our own act together and figure out why some of these black folks, why 8% of black women and 18% of black men voted for this idiot, right? So first of all, second of all, as the doctor said, there are 17, and last time I saw it, 73 million people voted for Trump. Right. And so when these people get on board, when, people want to congratulate themselves, by saying, oh yeah, we voted for Biden. No, people didn't vote for Biden. They voted against Trump. A. B, he still got 73 million votes, and which is 8 million more than he got last time. So here's the problem, is that we are as divided now as we were on November 2nd. And so there's really not much difference except we got Biden, hopefully going to be in the White House, as well as Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Now, what I will say beyond that is that we need to press for criminal justice reform. A. B, we need to hold Biden's feet to the fire. He said we pull his fat out of the fire, right? And which we did in South Carolina. And if you look at what happened in your state, thank you, but also in Georgia and also in Wisconsin and also in Michigan, Black folks made the difference. Now, how many times do black folks have to save democracy? We're the least, and we're trying to save everybody else. And so we need to, at this time, press Biden not only on criminal justice reform, but on reparations as well, while we have his attention.
I do want to get into that a little bit, Professor Park, as far as like that, because there is this ongoing controversy, this ongoing conversation about how black men voted, how black, especially in comparison to how black women voted. There were, well, at least according to exit poll. Real quick, Dr. Potter, before I get to you, I want to expound on that a little bit, Dr. Park, and then Dr. Potter, you can chime in and inject sort of your thoughts on this. Okay, right. From what we see, the exit polls show 18% of black men or black male voters voting for Donald Trump. Do we run the risk, however, of perhaps unnecessarily blaming black men for tight margins or for margins that shouldn't have been as tight in certain states, or alienating black men, when at the end of the day, the vast majority of black men still voted for Joe Biden? They still voted for the Democrat. They still voted at the same, near the same levels that they voted for Hillary Clinton. That's one question right there. And so I wonder about that. I wonder about, is there unnecessary targeting of black men in the overall larger public narrative? Because black men, we're already targeted on a lot of levels as is. And then two, can we trust the exit polls? Because we have two sets of exit polls. We have, I think it's Edison Research, and we have AP Votecast, and we're finding discrepancies in those numbers between those two, and so I wonder, like, how much we already having a conversation that shows that, the polls got it wrong. There wasn't a landslide election, or there wasn't as much of a landslide for Biden against Trump. So but now we're trusting the exit polls to tell us accurately how black voters behave. So I wonder about that. Dr. Parker?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So I believe, first of all, exit polls are, they're a guideline for right now. We have to get, I feel more comfortable in voter validation studies, right, where the vote has actually been validated and not just exit polls, right? Yeah. So I'm just saying that's all we have to work with right now are exit polls. Yeah. And so until the voter validation studies are published, then that's all we have to work with. But still, right, and I hear what you're saying, man. It's like, we shouldn't criticize or vilify, black men, for, well, I'm not going to say we shouldn't criticize. Okay, so 8% right. voted for Biden, right? No question about that, and that's to be celebrated. I'm not complaining about that. But what I would like to know is like, for these 20% of black men who voted for Trump, like, why? What? I'm just going to put it out here just like this. What self-respecting black man would vote for a white supremacist? I don't understand that. That's what I want to know. So, and I'm not blaming them for tight margins. That's not what I'm saying. I just want to know what self-respecting black man would vote for a white supremacist. That's my question. And beyond that, I think there was another question you asked about. So vilification, exit polls, voter validation. Yeah, so we need to wait for voter validated studies to come out to have a more precise measure of how people voted in general, but moreover, how black people voted, to get a more accurate count on this. And so I'll reserve ultimate judgment, but still, how do 20% of black men vote for a white supremacist? That's what I want to know.
That's a key question. It's a fair question. Go ahead, Dr. Potter, chime in on this, on that question. And then it gets into, but it opens up conversations we need to have about white voters. There was actually an uptick in the number of white women voters that supported that white nationalist, right? So there was that. There was, also still Latino voters out there. But then we've had this conversation before, you and I, about, and you've always said that, hey, you know what? You got to be much more meticulous in the way you have a conversation, much more specific. You have a conversation about Latino voters. It's not just Latino voters, or what, you got to talk about Latino voters out west, or Mexicans, Chicanos. You have to talk about indigenous folks. You have to talk about, the difference between Puerto Ricans and Cubans, Dominicans, et cetera. So, you have raised that, but so that brings that tears off that onion peel right there. But go ahead, Dr. Potter.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, let me just make one quick correction. I would be totally okay in a world without protest. And that comes as a scholar of protest and as someone that came up as a homeless organizer in San Francisco. I did that for well over a decade. And I actually wrote about how, especially during a pandemic, the exercise of protest was very co-optable by the right. You know, it was something that they were able to rally people against and make us look bad for. That's something I've seen like for decades. You know, they'd throw in people from Black Bloc and they'd come up. We'd have a normal protest, right, or a normal event at City Hall, and they'd bring in people from Black Bloc. Literally see people in police cars dropping off people to come and, you know, do damage to property that they could blame on us. So that's something we haven't really been able to counter. And again, we're in a pandemic. So I was arguing that something more along the lines of an economic shutdown that targeted specific industries, that Black folks and that, you know, Chicanos and other folks that were, you know, that we actually run those industries because we're the majority of participants, that if we could mobilize our own wealth and actually pay people within our own communities to stay home, that might be a more effective strategy. But moving into the conversation about Black male voters, I think it's anytime we're talking strategically, it's a real mistake to discuss individual or psychological profiles. What we need to discuss more is constructions, political constructions. And throughout history, we've seen, the metaphor of Uncle Toms and middleman folks that harm their own communities. So we have that. The question is, how as a community do we strategize around that? And I think we saw a really strong attack on Black men coming out of the white nationalists. We saw the Kanyes, and we saw the Addos, and we saw the free thinkers, and we saw this huge attack coming in to split the Democratic Party and the Black and female voting blocs, and that wasn't countered. So for me, it happened because there was an attack, and it's kind of like basketball. You know, you can have a 12-year-old go up to the hoop, and if there's no one defending them, they're gonna score the point. So I think they scored points because there was no defense. So we have to protect our black voters a lot more than we're doing right now.
Hey, Professor Parker, hold a thought, because one, I want you to respond to that, but two, I want to get on some other issues as well. So both of you hold on, stand by. We're going to, every time I use the word stand by now, I feel a way about it. I don't know why, so for the past month, since that last debate. But anyway, hold on for just one moment. We've got Dr. G.S. Potter, contributing editor with thebnote.com, regular contributor here on WURD, and Dr. Christian Sebastian Parker, who is back with us. It's good to have him back. Political science professor at the University of Washington in Seattle, joining us early morning hours there in Seattle, joining us here on Reality Check. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back with our Reality Check roundtable after this.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
The people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
He's back.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton.
In times like these, we have to stay connected.
At a brand new time.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
I'm excited that Keeping It Real returns to WURD.
Keeping it real.
With the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
This program is pre-recorded.
No phone calls, please.
Keep it locked to WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. WURDradio.com.
Reality Check
with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio
and WURDradio.com.
That's right. Represent your support for WURD Radio, Philadelphia's black-owned black talk radio station. Also, the only black-owned black talk radio station in the entire state Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, through November 16th, get a free WURD sweatshirt when you join or renew your membership. So use the code SAVESPACE. The code SAVESPACE, as in the new show, Safe Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita. That's Monday through Thursday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. Go to wordradio.com/join now and use the code Save Space to represent Black Talk Media today. That's very important. Black Talk Media, of course, playing a very pivotal role in delivering Philadelphia in this recent election. So definitely WURD is your home. It's your home for Black politics as well, and not just in Philly and PA, but throughout the nation, throughout the world. A lot of you listen in through our very robust live stream at wordradio.com and also at WURD TV as well. We're going back into our reality check roundtable. We've got this political science professor, Christopher Sebastian Parker, at the University of Washington in Seattle. He's joining us by Skype. And we've also got Dr. G.S. Potter. Folks are very familiar with her. She's a longtime contributor here on Reality Check WURD, also contributing editor for the B Note, THEBE Note.com, both joining us here for our regular Reality Check roundtable. Go ahead, Dr. or Professor Parker. Give us some thoughts on kind of what Dr. Potter was saying, but kind of going into some other issues. Now we have coronavirus, COVID-19 infections are surging. States, cities are trying to make decisions about whether or not to go back into a lockdown phase. How do we balance that all out? What are you kind of seeing on the horizon as, one, we've got to navigate a real critical situation. We even have like doctors and other medical professionals, they're stepping out of the business. They're quitting by the thousands. They're like, you know what, I'm done. And people are not listening. It got this recent poll showing, it's an Ohio State University poll showing 40% of Americans, these are adults, 40% of Americans saying they're going to have large gatherings during Thanksgiving, despite the health warnings. So how do you see that all unfolding while we're all caught up in this very tense political moment, while the president will not activate a peaceful and orderly transition to the new president?
Wow, that's quite a bit to to unpack here. So let me see if I can take this one bit.
Sure, go ahead.
One thing I would like to go back just for a second, what Dr. Potter said. I too have written on, white folks co-opting in the Washington Post. In fact, a couple months ago, co-opting Black protests. So I do think there is definitely
that's why we brought you on. Right.
So I do think that there's definitely a there. You are totally right about that, and I completely agree with the economic piece to this. But that doesn't necessarily mean that protests aren't effective. But I do get where you're going with on the pandemic thing. Anyway, I would love to talk about this at length some other time, because I have lots of data on this stuff, but we can wait for another time. But anyway, so on the pandemic and on the poll and everything, and then on this tense political moment. I think that I don't think I think the pandemic is definitely still a problem, because there's a New York Times piece yesterday, saying that Black and brown communities are still disproportionately affected when it comes to contracting COVID, and not only contracting it, but also succumbing to COVID. And so, but nevertheless, people are still going to have these large gatherings. Well, think about it like this. For people of color, especially Black folks, we're all about family. And this is one situation where, I can go in either direction. Like, on the one hand, we really need our family right around now, because folks are lonely, folks have been shut in, and we need that sort of fellowship. But on the other hand, right, we have this, once in a century pandemic with which we have to deal. And that's just a decision you just got to leave up. So if the president, well, he's not my president, number 45, right, doesn't want to do anything about this, and he's leaving it up to states and, local authorities. So what I will say is, in my own family, what we're doing is we are honoring this. What we're saying is, like, look, we love you. We'll Skype. We'll do all this other stuff. We'll Zoom. But, life and limb is more important for us right now, right? Because as it stands right now, most of the time, many of us see our extended family, during funerals, right? And it's like, we want to try to minimize that and try to keep as many of us around as possible. I've already had 2 people in my family die from COVID. And so we're taking this very, very seriously.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Potter. Yeah, and that, how do we like strike that balance? Or, well, let me ask you this, Dr. Potter, because there's now a situation happening where, as especially local and state governments, because obviously the federal government is not doing anything on this. The federal government not only mismanaged the situation, their malevolence created this situation, and so you have businesses, large and small. They're actively pushing it. They're lobbying, advocating back, snapping back against local and state governments who are considering openly to shut down, to go back to a lockdown phase like what we had earlier in the year to get this thing under control. Some people have hinted at or entertained a 4 to 6 week lockdown to really get this kind of done and get these surges under control. But I see this now as not just a pandemic moment, but kind of a hint of what's to come, as far as like, once again, sort of this sort of influence that business corporate interests have in a time of pandemic, in a time of economic meltdown, and at a time too where we're seeing an erosion of labor rights. Go ahead, Dr. Potter.
Yeah, first let me say to Dr. Parker that I did my dissertation in co-optation theory at the University of Washington, so I speak very fluent Husky. I think we would have some fun talking about these
That's right.
issues. But yeah, for me, this is where I see a huge vacuum in leadership in the Black community. I think this is kind of our chance to do what we were not able to do under the Trump administration when COVID first came out. I think it would be amazing, instead of having like an individual, okay, you make your own decision approach to it like we're seeing right now, that if we had a concerted, organized, strategic effort to say, you know what, we're going to take control of the COVID narrative right now. And not only are we going to take control of it, but we're going to take control of it in a way that actually benefits the communities moving forward. Because at the beginning of this pandemic, right, like the first couple of weeks, everyone was really scared. They were all really on board. Well, folks in our communities with saying, yeah, we need internet for folks. We need food for folks. We need money for folks. Because people can't work. And you know what? People in our communities, like I'm a poor single mother of color. I've been living a pandemic for 42 years. We don't have the resources we need to survive. We don't have health care. We don't have internet. We stand in bread lines, So this was the one time where folks was all together on board. Like, this isn't how people can live right now. So I'd like, again, to see us say, we're not going to work. We're not going to see our families. We're going to be the example that wasn't set in the beginning, and we're going to make this mold so people follow it. So when the new administration does come in, then we can get some of our demands met.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Parker, transitioning, pivoting on topics here. What's going on with this non-transition that's taking place? What do you think is happening here? Is it looking like someone's trying to pull off a coup, pretty much? Saying like, hey, I'm just rejecting the results of the election. I'm just going to do whatever I want. No one's going to call me out on it, or at least of all enforce it. Or is this just like preparing for subsequent elections in 2022, 2024, repositioning, repivoting? What do you think is going on here, Dr. Parker?
I think the latter is more true than the former, quite frankly. I think he's trying to. Yeah, look, let's keep it 100%. Trump is going to continue to run the Republican Party from the sidelines, right? I mean that's pretty obvious, and that's a serious problem. So yeah, I think what's happening right now is him trying to save face with his base. I think that's a lot of what's going on right now. The Republicans know that they need him, and for these runoff elections in Georgia here coming up in January. So they're trying to keep him on board, and so the Republican leadership is trying to placate him for right now. But I suspect it's going to go beyond just for right now. I think it's going to continue for quite some time, because he's going to lord over the Republican Party for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, what we're ultimately seeing right now. And if this guy runs again in 2024, I mean, we're going to go right back to where we were if we get far enough away from it between now and then. And I'm not convinced of that.
Hey, Dr. Potter, you've talked about this before about like, you got a constitution there, so use it. So isn't this like a moment that should have us reflecting on, I don't know, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment? I don't know, the 25th Amendment? I mean, where's the hesitation, or why the hesitation on revisiting the Constitution, saying we have a sitting president who is, and other elected officials as well, who are enabling him, engaged in a form of treason here, because this is a national security threat when you hold up a transition like that.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of the hesitation has to do with the fact that a lot of the motions that would need to happen at this point to get him out of office would have to run through Congress, and that's still under Mitch McConnell's thumb. And I think that should be a huge wake-up call to folks, again, saying, we didn't win this election. We got Trump out. But they still have control of Congress. They still have control of 73 million Americans. What I will say, going back to your question, is that we can't approach Donald Trump as if he's this lone person, if he was the grand strategist of all of this. He really wasn't. And at the national level, the people that were behind him, they've been around for a few decades. Going back to Nixon, like the same people behind Trump were behind Nixon, and they're still operating moving forward. So whether Trump is even out of jail or not, coming into 2022 and 2024, they're still going to have the same political infrastructure set up and probably building more of their base against the Biden administration if we don't counter properly to do some real damage. And then at the international level, I truly believe that there's a lot of backing of the Trump administration from Russia and from China and from Saudi Arabia. And there's a very concerted effort not only to knock off the U.S. economically and politically, they've done a great job of at the international level, but especially within the UN, to knock off the U.S. ability to monitor elections in other nations and interfere with elections in other nations. So doing as much damage right now as possible to the idea of democracy, even if it's not going to work for Trump, works for those other agendas. So I think anything we can do at any level to try and stop them strategically and in a smart way, not just trying to use media talking points, would be a really good time to start that right now.
Yeah. We have Rick Carrick, who's a listener, and he's on Twitter responding to an earlier statement Professor Parker was making. Rick Carrick saying, one of the things for which black people don't get enough credit is the group solidarity involved in a 90% vote. There's a lot more carping about 10% of the black vote for Trump than about the 60% of the white vote. So that's just Rick Carrick, at Rick Carrick, on social media, on Twitter, responding to that conversation. Also, Diane Fassett responding to both of you, Dr. Parker and Dr. Potter. Diane Fassett on Facebook Live, watching us on WURD TV, saying that number is a minority. There are more than 328 million people in the United States. While it's disturbing that many people voted for Trump, it's certainly not the majority, and certainly not everyone voted. Diane, thanks for watching. Also, Rick, thanks for listening. And so is the comments there, reactions to our Reality Check Roundtable. We've been joined by, I'm going to give you the last word, Dr. G.S. Potter, Reality Check Roundtablist, regular contributor here on Reality Checks, on WURD's Reality Check, contributing editor for the BENote.com, so check it out. Okay, Biden won, so what next? I know she's got some other stuff in the pipeline as well. Great stuff. That's our companion magazine, THEBENote.com. See, a lot of people are reading it as we speak, in fact. And Dr. Christopher Sebastian Parker, political science professor at the University of Washington in Seattle, Washington, joining us by Skype as well. So I get a feeling he's not going to be a stranger. It's good to finally have you back. We finally aligned those schedules, and it's good to have you on, Professor Parker, as well. Welcome to the Reality Check family, and good. I hope you can get some rest. I'll give the rest of your Monday morning back to you.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you virtually, Dr. Parter.
Thank you, and thank you, Charles. You guys stay safe.
Excellent. You do the same. Yeah, I know we got a university. We got the UW alum club here on Reality Check. I mean, we need to let University of Washington know about that. They got their alum here representing strong on Reality Check WURD. Thank you both. Both of you, please stay safe. Keep your family safe and healthy especially during this this holiday season. This very tense holiday season. Thanks so much again. Take care. We'll talk again.
All right.
Okay. We have you too. All right. Let's take a break. And when we come back, don't also remember, if you want to show your support for WURD Radio, don't forget, now through November 16th, which is tomorrow, get a free WURD sweatshirt when you join. Actually, that's today. get a free WURD sweatshirt when you join or renew your membership. Use the code Save Space as in the new show Save Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, Monday through Thursday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Go to wordradio.com/join now and use the code Save Space to represent Black Talk Media. And you know, you always want to support Black Talk Media. So if you want to make WURD as even stronger than it is already. All right, let's take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to be joined by Congresswoman Madeline Dean, Philly area Congresswoman. Phone lines are open in case you have questions. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 as we talk to Congresswoman Madeline Dean here on Reality Check WURD 96.1 FM 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's up, Philly? It's Solomon Jones. The school year is underway, but never before has that experience come in so many shapes and sizes. Is the education of your child being left to a smattering of clumsy, in-person, and virtual instruction? The COVID-19 crisis has created a market for untested virtual teaching models lacking true credibility. Maybe it's time to reconsider and check out Commonwealth Charter Academy. Here are the benefits to your family. 1. An online education provided at no cost to you, complete with laptop, headset, and help with internet access. 2. Partnership with the market leader in cyber education with a nearly 20-year track record of world-class learning. 3. Delivery of a safe, reliable, and comfortable education experience over the internet directly to the confines of your living room. Visit ccaeducate.me today and discover the gold standard of cyber education. That's ccaeducate.me.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Hi, this is Jeff Brown from Brown's Family ShopRites and Fresh Grocers. Are you thinking about a part-time job to help out with the cost of the holidays? We have plenty of openings. You can apply online at shoprite.com/careers or freshgrocer.com/careers. Come join the Brown family today and help us serve the people of Philadelphia. Have a great holiday.
This is WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media. Reality Check.
With Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio.
And wordradio.com.
Reality Check
with Charles Ellison
right now on WURD Radio
and wordradio.com.
Okay, welcome back. We're here on Reality Check. It's Monday midday on the home of Black Talk Media, WURD. We are live on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, and WURD app. Joining us now is Congresswoman Madeline Dean, serving Pennsylvania's 4th Congressional District. Go to dean.house.gov, of course, for more information, particularly if you live in her district, need to tap into some of her resources that her office can offer, particularly during pandemic. Dean.house.gov, and also at Rep Dean on social media. Congresswoman joins us by Skype here, so you can see her on WURD TV as well. Congresswoman, good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
Oh, wow. It's always good to hear you. Now I get to see you.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me, and I'm really glad you put out that information about contacting our office. We're here to serve constituents every day, so that's our job, and we really love doing that.
Excellent. No, we appreciate that. Thanks for adding that. And we'll have the phone line open in case people have questions or constituents. Congresswoman, 215, which we do with all Philadelphia area elected officials, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. So, Congresswoman, very contentious, toxic election. It's pretty much over, and people are expecting certification from the Electoral College as far as the presidential race is concerned on December 14th. But Democrats have a much slimmer majority in the House than they did, lost about 5 seats. That love for Joe Biden didn't translate to any love down ballot. So how do you contend with that? How are you all gearing up for what could be an even more contentious new session of Congress in 2021?
Well, if you don't mind, let's first focus on the win. People came out in extraordinary numbers to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's historic. More than 74 million votes, the highest vote for a president ever in our history. And of course, to have a woman vice president, a woman of color, it's historic, it's exciting. And of course, that was our #1 priority as we went into this election cycle, to make sure that Donald Trump was turned out of office because he is inept and corrupt. And the American voters saw that as well. In terms of our majority, that was our second goal, make sure we keep our majority. So we did. I am sorry about I have some dear friends, particularly freshman classmates, who did not win re-election. So I am very sorry for those losses. But we do have the majority, and that's what we have to remember. We are the most diverse caucus. We have more women, we have more people of color, we have LGBTQ. We have a very robust caucus. So I'm delighted we have the majority still. We can move forward with our agenda.
Now, that said, there are tensions within the House Democratic Caucus, and they're spilling over into public view. And I wonder how you can sort of manage or navigate these tensions heading into 2022. That it doesn't bode too well for Democrats, particularly when there is disagreement and unresolved conflicts over messaging. I kind of felt like it was sort of a messaging faux pas. I understand it comes from a good place, but a lot of people are saying that, like Congressman Jim Clyburn, one of your leaders there in the House Democratic Caucus, saying, folks should not have used so loosely phrases like defund the police. That had a lot of, did you find any issues with that, particularly you being in a suburban Philadelphia district? How did that play out? But I mean, at the end of the day, more importantly, House Democrats are going to have to figure out a way to resolve those tensions so Republicans don't make any more gains in 2022.
I want to give you a little inside scoop, which is in our caucus, we more agree than disagree. I have seen, obviously, the leaks that are coming out of our caucus conversations, which I think are incredibly irresponsible. That should not happen. But I don't know about you. I'm one of 7 children. So I liken the caucus to a family.
Yeah.
And our family, our 7, I'm the youngest of 7. I have 5 older brothers, an older sister. We were always a robust caucus at the dinner table. But in the end, we were all in it together. So I don't find the differences to be so grand. To your point about sloganeering, and that is the word that Whip Clyburn uses.
You do.
I think we as Democrats have to be very clear about what we stand for in a very crisp way. And I think that is one of the questions. And we have to be able to fight back against the sloganeering that is simply false. That's something the Republicans have been successful at, spewing things that are not true and having them stick, having people believe them, or just scaring people. So I think we have to be more disciplined in our message, recognize that I do want you to know, and I want your listeners to know, the squabbling that has been brought to light is minor compared to what we all stand for, which is we stand for taking care of this pandemic and keeping people safe. We stand for rebuilding our economy. We stand for making sure we make the most of this social justice moment and civil rights moment. for voting rights. We stand for protecting our planet. We stand for educating our kids equitably, equally, all of them. So everything that unites us is much more powerful than the few squabbles of a family.
Now, despite those squabbles, will that still be a priority as well? That need to transform or remix police. I mean, maybe coming up with a different messaging term. I mean, as somebody who's worked in that space too for a number of years, just would have found a better term. Is that conversation taking place where it's like, hey, you know what? We don't need to necessarily get rid of the root argument here. We just need to kind of we need to tweak the message. So I mean, is that kind of moving forward, some tweaking of that messaging on issues like which ended up being divisive, and Republicans did try to take advantage of it, whether it was defund the police or whether it was that question regarding fracking in places like Pennsylvania. In the Trump campaign, Republicans definitely tried to take advantage of that. Is that conversation taking place, or is that effort happening in earnest right now as you're gearing up for 2022?
What I've tried to use is the term right funding the police. In some places that would be you'd need to increase funding for police. In some places it would mean you would decrease funding, but it would be right funding. And also making sure the police are in service for our safety and our protection. So that when social services should actually be the one called, that's what we should do. So I hope we get crisp on that message. I don't even believe those who use the term defunding the police, if you've heard some of them describe it, they don't zero out the police. We need safety, security in our neighborhoods, but we actually have to figure out how you do it better and how you do it right and how you do it without racial prejudice and bias. We passed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. I expect we will introduce that again. We will pass it again, and that is a step in the right direction for identifying racial injustice within and bigotry, systemic bigotry within our institutions. We have to face that. And get away from the sloganeering. Let's just right fund the police.
And and pivoting on some other topics as we're in the middle of this pandemic. You sit on the House Judiciary Committee, House Financial Services Committee, so you're kind of watching it from a variety of perspectives. People are really anxious about the notion that we have to go back into another lockdown. Businesses obviously are lobbying policymakers on the state and local level especially, but on the federal level as well, lobbying you all in that lawmaker position hard not to shut down these businesses or to be real cautious in that. How do we balance that? How do we achieve a much more equitable pandemic recovery, or at least equitable navigation through that pandemic?
Well, sadly, we are where we are now with 250,000 Americans dead of COVID. And the numbers are increasing in dramatic fashion. We didn't have to be here. So the number one thing that I think this election cycle did was turn away Trump, because Trump bungled us, sadly. Remember what we were asked to do early on, and many of us did it willingly, but not everyone. And it became a political football. We were asked to make sure that we socially distance, that we test, that we then contact trace, until we have the ability to have a vaccine and therapies. We were asked to wear a mask, the simple gesture of wearing a mask, protecting myself, but protecting you at the same time. If we had 95% compliance with that, our numbers would never have been where they are. So I believe that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will have to be the restart for so many things. And number one is how we treat the pandemic. We have to be in this all together. We can't have red state governors doing one thing and blue state governors doing another because the president taunts governors in a political fashion. We will find leadership with clear direction and a steady hand on the wheel in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They will listen to the scientists. The first thing that the president-elect has done is set up a coronavirus task force. That's a step in the right direction, because for all of the ills that we talk about, all of the things we will legislate on, number one, we have to get our arms around this pandemic, wear masks, socially distance, do the responsible things to tamp down on these numbers.
Hey, Congressman, speaking of the president, the current president, President Trump, he's showing he's not going to concede transition has not officially taken place yet. That's a real. I'm talking to national security experts and also reading a variety of sources, and everyone's really frustrated about that and really scared that becomes it transforms into, or it evolves into an existential national security threat that a lot of geopolitical rivals could take advantage of. Not to mention the domestic threats, the domestic situation that creates. And are we talking about, and you sit on House Judiciary Committee, and you all you have oversight of, for example, things like the Constitution. I mean, is this a 14th Amendment activation, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment? Some people are saying this is treasonous behavior that the current president is engaged in. Do we need to look at the 25th Amendment? I know at one time Speaker Pelosi was talking about that earlier on, about a few months ago, because particularly around the time that the president was getting, spreading the virus around the White House. Are you all actively exploring that as an option, even though he's in a lame duck session as a president?
Our Judiciary Committee is having some meetings this week and conversations this week. But what I want to say is what the President Trump is engaged in is a temper tantrum. And I don't believe our agencies will allow our systems of protection, Homeland Security, et cetera, to be compromised by the temper tantrum of a president on his way out the door. So we are all worried about.
Are those? Let me ask you, Congressman. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I am real curious. Are you all having conversations, maybe quiet conversations, with those federal agencies like Department of Homeland Security, with the Secret Service, U.S. Marshals, particular folks, to say, hey, listen, if he doesn't leave the White House, or if he doesn't engage in this transition, or if he doesn't abide by the elector's certification on December 14th, they are telling you, hey, this is what our handbook, our manual tells us what to do?
I have not had those kinds of conversations or been a part of those.
Okay.
We have, in the run-up to the election, we had a series of meetings and conversations about what kind of maneuvers the president could try to interfere with the election. He failed to do that, and you saw our election was incredibly secure, incredibly robust in this area with 80+% participation, completely secure, no fraud identified. But in terms of the president and the president-elect, you see that the president-elect is well into transition. And as I said, part of what has to happen in the new year, and it's happening now, I believe, is a rebuilding of our relationships, a rebuilding of the faith and trust in our agencies who serve us so well, while the President Trump tried to dismantle them or discredit them. So I have every confidence that these agencies will step up and continue to protect us through the transition. And this president will leave the Oval Office, willingly or unwillingly. He's going out the door. He's just in a temper tantrum right now.
Let me take a quick call here, Congresswoman. We have Rick, one of our listeners, actually calling from Germany, the actual country of Germany. Rick, calling in for a reality check. Rick, how are you doing?
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen?
All right. Good, good.
Hi, Rick.
Good to hear you, Rick.
My question for the lady is, does she think small children under the age of 8 and over the age of 2 should be wearing the mask?
Go ahead, Congresswoman.
I'm not a scientist to know that, to be very honest. Do you have some opinion on that or expertise?
What do you think, Mr. Rick?
I think that children should be wearing the mask. I see so many parents walking with children who are able to walk over the age of 2 years of age, and the children are without the mask. I think they should be masked.
I would agree with that. I have grandchildren. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter. And to your point, I've visited, when I was able to, preschools. And when they reopened with a fewer number, they had children 2 years old and up, and they were wearing masks. Children are very compliant. So for the protection of themselves and protection of others, I think that's a really smart measure.
Yeah, and just to also offer a little bit of clarification on that question, or a little bit more information, because I think it's a good question, Rick. World Health Organization advises that children aged 5 years and under should not be required to wear a mask, and so that's based on some safety considerations there. But for children ages 6 to 11, they advise that it depends on the circumstances, whether, for example, whether there's widespread transmission in the area where the child is, the ability of the child to safely and appropriately use a mask, access, etc. But both the World Health Organization and the United Nations advise that children age 12 and over should wear a mask under the same conditions as adults. So that's children ages 12 and over. Congresswoman, I know we want to let you go. Always appreciate your time. Thanks for that question, Rick, by the way, and thanks for listening in from Germany. Really appreciate you joining us as always, Congresswoman. Congresswoman Madeleine Dean is representing the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, the suburbs of Philadelphia. Go to dean.house.gov for more information on how to access her services there. Also at Rep. Dean as well. She joins us here occasionally on Reality Check. Congresswoman, thank you.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Charles. Stay well.
All right. You too. Be safe. And happy holidays to you coming up as well.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right. Take care. Okay. Let's take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we're headed into CAP Corner. Dr. Lawrence Korb is coming on to talk about some of those national security threats we mentioned earlier, and particularly on the recent firing of the defense secretary. That's one of those moves that alarmed a lot of people. But Center for American Progress's Lawrence Korb on here to talk about that and other issues for our weekly CAP Corner here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Seniors, does your doctor regularly reach out to check on you? Can you walk into your doctor's office and see them if you need to? Do you have your doctor's cell phone number and can you call them anytime, day or night? At Dedicated Senior Medical Center, their only specialty is caring for seniors. Dedicated makes it easy to get the primary care you deserve. Doctors spend more time with patients than the doctors you may be used to. They offer telehealth visits, help you get your medications, and even make sure you get to your appointments. If your doctor isn't treating you like family, it's time to say yes to Dedicated Senior Medical Center. Call Dedicated Senior Medical Center today to schedule a visit and find out what you're missing. Call 267-443-1900. That's 267-443-1900. Appointments are available now.
Save the date.
Friday, December 4th from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. for the 5th annual WURD Empowerment Experience. And this year, the virtual and on-air event will be extra special as we celebrate the career of radio veteran Cody Anderson and discuss the importance of independent black media. For more details about the 2020 WURD Empowerment Experience or to RSVP, visit wordradio.com and stay tuned to WURD Radio. 96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and wordradio.com.
Reality Check
with Charles Ellison
right now on WURD Radio
and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check here on WURD. We're not only on 96.1 FM and 900 AM in the greater Philly, Delaware Valley area, but we're heard nationally on our robust live streams at wordradio.com, and watching us too. You're watching us on WURD TV. Those of you at our Facebook live streams, facebook.com/4word, and also youtube.com/onWURD as well. You're seeing now, joining me, Lawrence Korb. He is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress Action Fund. He's a former Assistant Secretary of Defense as well, I believe, in the Reagan administration back in the 80s. And his work focuses on the military and also defense budget policy. Got a lot of questions there. Of course, Larry Korb joins us here wearing a Delaware Blue Hens sweater. Of course, I'm sure folks
got a new president from Delaware.
Exactly, got a new president from Delaware. Delaware is definitely in the house, and we have Larry Korb on with us here on Reality Check. Thanks so much. Really appreciate this, Doctor. How's everything?
Well, doing as well as could be expected here with what's happening in the country, which is really, really sad. So now the virus is coming back and everything like that. So anyway, that's I'm doing as well as can be expected.
Yeah, exactly. No, we all are. So real quick, I did want to get, you've had long time experience in the national security space and the defense space. Want to get your first initial reaction to the termination of the defense secretary last week, Mark Esper. How did you, particularly at a time right after the election results come out, it's highly unprecedented. I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this in American government. And it really, a lot of folks felt that was unnecessary, particularly when you have the current president preparing to exit the White House. What were your first thoughts when you saw that?
I couldn't believe it, because not only did Secretary Esper leave, but all of his staff did. And I can tell you, having worked in the Pentagon and spent 20 some odd years in the Navy, it takes you a while to get up to speed. So here you have a new secretary with a new team trying to get up to speed and have a transition to a new administration in the midst of wars. I mean, we're at war all over, and we still have troops in lots of countries, lots of things going on. I mean, even this week, while everybody focuses on Afghanistan, we were in Africa. Something was going on.
Yeah, and talk a little bit, expound on that too. What does that do to the Pentagon's posture? What specifically, are you worried about right now? That's a very good point. I don't think a lot of people realize that we are technically still at war, and globally in a number of theaters. But what does that do to operations at the Pentagon? I mean, does that, for example, hold up certain decisions that have to be made by Pentagon brass? Because Pentagon or generals in the branches of the military, they're kind of waiting on cues or signals from their boss, the Secretary of Defense, who's waiting on cues from the president. So how does that affect the decision-making process from the president on down to those generals, on down to those folks who are right there in the trenches on a battlefield?
Well, I'll give you an example. President Trump says he wants all the troops out of Afghanistan before he leaves office. Secretary Esper had sent him a memo and said you can't do that for practical reasons or for strategic reasons, because the Taliban have been very, very aggressive after the quote-unquote peace deal we signed with them last February, and that's what the military want. But you get a new secretary in, he thinks we ought to leave. And again, if you do that, you'll create more problems than you'll solve. Now, I can, think it's time for us to begin getting out, but the fact of the matter is you've got to do it in an orderly manner. If you don't, you'll create more problems than you'll solve.
Yeah, create more problems than you solve, and you risk more lives than you need to as well during a transition like that. So you want to make sure that it's also as optimal for the troops in those theaters as well. What about our positioning or our posture as it relates to geopolitical rivals? I worry about, for example, naval vessels clashing accidentally, so to speak, in the South China Sea. There's been some hot tensions aircraft, military aircraft have been buzzing by each other, Chinese military aircraft buzzing by U.S. naval vessels. The tensions are really hot in the South China Sea. And, what could happen during or what could potentially happen? And could we look at some kind of war or some sort of skirmish between Chinese and U.S. military assets in the South China Sea if this isn't resolved, if this transition goes on as sloppy as it's going right now?
Well, what I worry about is the Chinese will take a look and say, well, look at the chaos over there. They've gotten rid of the team, so we can get more aggressive now and we can take more of the island, so they could misinterpret. Now, our forces are there. They will, obviously respond if they get the orders from the chain of command. I mean, people don't realize the president has unlimited authority to launch a nuclear war. He's got the nuclear codes. Nobody else has those. Okay, he can order troops to go into battle. Way back when, in 1974, when Richard Nixon was getting ready to leave office and was drinking a lot, the Secretary of Defense at that time, Jim Schlesinger, said to the military, if you get an order from the White House and the president, you don't follow it without checking with me. Now, that's technically illegal. The president is the commander-in-chief. He can order forces, into battle. Fortunately, we dodged the bullet because if we had more riots after the outcome of the election, Trump wanted to send in the active duty military.
Yeah.
And the reasons Esper got fired is because he opposed to that. So what would happen now if Trump said, "Oh, look what's happening now down here in Lafayette Square in Washington. Send in the 82nd Airborne." Who would stop him?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this so we got this acting defense secretary, Christopher Miller, a former national counterterrorism director. I guess in some respects, his skill sets, or at least his experience, kind of applies to the position because we've been engaged in this global war on asymmetrical bad actors for quite some time here. So I guess he's been engaged in that scale of war. But still, what are your concerns or worries about that? About someone who is assumed to be a Trump loyalist, and what that means? What you just started explaining it. Certain things that Trump could, or the president could think of doing, kind of pushing the envelope. Do you worry that new acting Secretary Miller will push the envelope or will allow him to push the envelope?
Yeah, I do worry particularly about Afghanistan. Now, Mr. Miller, to his credit, is a former Green Beret. He fought in Afghanistan. He understands the war. But the fact of the matter is, there's a big difference between being a combat soldier and overseeing a withdrawal from the theater. And I'm afraid that if Trump says, okay, I promise to get out of Afghanistan, let's do it before I leave, he won't stand up to him, where somebody like, Secretary Esper, who had a much longer career in the military and then in the private sector and had been Secretary of the Army before he moved up.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's I didn't realize that. I didn't realize Miller was a former Green Beret as well, so that kind of factors in that. We're talking with Dr. Larry Korb. He is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, focuses on military issues, defense budget policy, defense priorities, also a former assistant secretary at the Department of Defense during the Reagan administration. And go to @Larry Korb, Korb, on social media, on Twitter. Follow what he's up to there. He's joining us here on Reality Check. We're having a Cap Corner. We do this in conjunction with, in partnership with, our friends down in Washington, D.C. at the Center for American Progress, AmericanProgress.org for more information. How does this impact also, because you focus on defense budget priorities, defense budget policy. How does this impact the defense budget? Like, where are we now with the defense budget? Now we're going to be heading into a new administration. We've got all sorts of new threats. Also, the military, the U.S. military, is creating new weapon systems or exploring new weapon systems. How does this? And then it's also created a new branch, the Space Force. We just saw yesterday the new SpaceX launch. So, as we now gear up for more activities in space, there's going to be a military dimension to this. So your thoughts on how that, Dr. Korb, on how that impacts those policy priorities, those budget priorities as it relates to the Pentagon?
Well, in an orderly transition, if President Trump had conceded after the election and set up a transition with the incoming Biden people, they'd be doing two things about the budget. We still don't have a budget for the fiscal year that started 1 October. The Congress passed a continuing resolution, which means spend it at last year's level, not this year's.
Wow.
So that has to be taken care of here by the end of this month. Well, in normal transition, you'd have the new administration coming in and working with the old and say, we got to spend more on the Space Force, less on the ships, or whatever, whatever it might be. Then the new budget goes up February 1st for 2022. Well, again, if you don't have much of a transition, you come in January 20th. You got 2 weeks to get this darn thing done. Now, obviously, you can modify it as you go along, but in an orderly way, if you had the normal transition with the normal team there, they would work all these things out, because normally people, even political appointees in the Pentagon, the main concern is national security, not political benefit. And so what you would do is say, okay, how do you guys want to do this? Do you want to buy more nuclear weapons? Do you want to buy less? What should we put in the budget? What should we not? And again, that's what I worry about. And particularly, you got this new team, and they don't have much experience with the budget either.
So you're saying we could head into 2021 with the military, the largest military on the planet, running on continuing resolutions? Not like that hasn't happened before. I mean, there have been instances where that's happened, but at the top of a new administration, that's alarming, right?
Well, it is, and it's always alarming. 15 out of the last 19 years, Congress has not passed a budget on time. And again, the fiscal year used to start 1 July. We said, they never get it done by then. So let's move the fiscal year to 1 October. They still don't get it done. So it's not just the administration, it's the way Congress, deals with the budget. And, there's always going to be a political dimension. You might want to say, gee, I don't want a new land-based missile. And people say, well, you have them in Montana. We got to build them anyway, or we want to close the spaces. I mean, one of the big issues is in the defense budget whether you're going to rename the bases named after Confederate generals, which, people want to end that, and ESPR was moving in that direction. What is Miller going to do, with this
That's
budget?
right. I didn't think about that. That's right. Because that was one of those issues. Obviously before the election, was a hot topic. ESPR was trying to do the right thing with respect to that. I know the Marines, the branch, they had made big decisions about removing names of Confederate generals from their installations. So that was a pretty big deal for the Marines to kind of take the first step on that, take some leadership on that. I wonder, what would your advice be, Dr. Korb, to members of Congress, to folks in the House, and both the House and Senate, about how to manage this situation? Or maybe do they have anything kind of within their power at their disposal right now to sort of force the president's hand on this? So that things happen in a more orderly fashion between now and Inauguration Day?
Well, I think the Republicans control the Senate. They're the chairs of Senate Armed Services Committee and Senate Defense Appropriations. They're going to work with the House, come up with a bill. Trump has said, if you live this stuff in there about renaming the bases, I'm going to veto the bill. And then you still wouldn't have a bill. So I think it's up to the Republican leadership in the Senate to talk to the president and say, look, you lost the election. You've got to be worried about national security. You don't want your, people thinking about, you've done all these things for the military. You've increased defense spending. You don't want to go out and leave chaos. So, sign this bill, even though you don't like everything, that's in it. I mean, ESPR had been very smart the way he did it. He didn't say rename them. He just gave a list of flags you could put up, and the Confederate flag wasn't on there.
Wow. Hey, this question comes up often. It's an uncomfortable question, but I do want to ask you, since you have that experience, the role that the military could potentially play, and if the president continues to be resistant towards exiting the White House like he's supposed to, even after the Electoral College certifies everything on December 14th, then does that suddenly activate the military to resolve the situation, or certain elements of the military to resolve the situation? If it's something that federal law enforcement can't do, if there's like quibbling over, well, which agency is supposed to enforce this? I know it's something the military, this particular military, does not like to do, but is that something that's ever happened in history, or something similar to that? Or is the military kind of, I don't know, maybe you've have sources told you that, hey, you know what, this is something that it's within the realm of possibility. It's sort of a remote chance, but this is something that we might have to do if he continues to be resistant about leaving the White House.
Yeah, absolutely not. General Milley, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking military officer, has already spoken out and said, we will not do it. And I think what would happen is if they got that order, they would resign. So they will, but you're right, this is important to keep in mind. This could precipitate a constitutional crisis. But Milley said, and he gave a great talk, he said, our loyalty is not to a particular administration, a particular party. It's to the Constitution of the United States, and that's what we will follow. So no, they won't do it. And we've got plenty of other things with, law enforcement and the various Homeland Security, for example, the FBI, that could make this happen. I just hope that it doesn't come down to that. I mean, it'll take us years to recover our reputation around the world if that happens.
Yeah, no, it really would. Real quick, I do want to ask you, because I have some interest in this, kind of a hobby of mine to follow geopolitics and to follow particular developments in the military space. But what are those weapon systems that you would look more closely at, heading into a new administration? Weapon systems to potentially cut, weapon systems to potentially enhance or expand on. I mean, one weapon system that comes to mind that there's a lot of controversy is like the F-35 Joint Task Force jet. There's a lot of quibbling over that because of the high price tag. But what are those weapon systems that you're looking at very closely as you're heading into this new administration?
Whether you want to modernize all three legs of the triad, the bomber, the sea-based missiles, land-based missiles. A lot of people, including former Secretary of Defense Bill Perry, have argued you don't need a land-based component. So I think that would be first thing. Second thing, even the late John McCain, before he passed away, said we still don't need to build this large aircraft carriers. We've got to move to smaller ones and unmanned ships. With the F-35, I would slow down production till you get all the problems worked out. They keep having problems. There's no rush to get it. I mean, we've got, a number of aircraft that are still maybe not as good, but they're still, I think, very capable. So I'd slow it down to get all the problems worked out, then go ahead and build it. Because it's not just for us, it's for the world. So you want other nations to say, well, this darn thing is having too many problems, we're going to cancel our purchase.
Yeah. I mean, that's a, what is that, like $120 million aircraft? I mean, in excess of that.
Yeah, and again, the idea was good to have one aircraft for all three, for the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force, as well as our allies. So the idea was good, but there was no real reason to rush it. And of course, that's why you need a strong Secretary of Defense. When the industry doesn't live up to what it's supposed to be, you got to say, okay, you're not, we're going to cut your pay, or the cost or whatever we have to do until you get this right.
Yeah. We've been talking with us, great discussion, Dr. Larry Korb, who's a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, also himself a former Assistant Secretary of Defense during the Reagan administration, formerly also worked in the Navy, former Navy veteran as well, and focuses on military defense issues for the Center for American Progress. Go to AmericanProgress.org or at Larry Korb, K-O-R-B, for more on what he's up to, what he's researching, joining us here on Reality Check. Mr. Korb, really appreciate your time. Thanks for some of the insights and information. Hopefully we'll have you back again.
Okay, anytime. You know how to get a hold of me.
Excellent. No, thanks. We appreciate that. Thank you. Take care. All right. Continue to Continue to rep your support for WURD Radio, Philly's black-owned black talk radio station, now through November 16th. Well, actually now, today, last day, get a free WURD sweatshirt when you join or renew your membership. Use the code SAVESPACE, as in the new show Save Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, Monday through Thursday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Go to wordradio.com/join now and use the code SAVESPACE to rep Black Talk Media today. All right. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, toll-free 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open. Phone lines, I understand now, are going to be open in the 12 o'clock hour. I think we were supposed to have Congresswoman Frederica Wilson from Florida. She was supposed to come on at noon, but house business came up. So the schedules are real active right now. So that's going to happen every now and then. But since she won't be coming on at noon for our weekly conversations, our weekly chats with the Congressional Black Caucus, where the phone lines open then too. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll get your phone calls next.
Do you want to help kids in foster care? CASA Youth Advocates is seeking volunteers of color to advocate for the youth they serve. 50% of kids in the Delaware and Chester County foster care system are children of color, yet only 9% of CASA Youth Advocate volunteers are people of color. Children in foster care greatly benefit from advocates who look like and can relate to them. They desperately need more volunteers of color. Visit delcocasa.org for more info. That's www.delcocasa.org.
Jobs,
Entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources,
and financial literacy.
livelihood. The new initiative from WURD Radio to connect Philadelphians to resources to help take the next steps in their professional lives. WordWorks.com features career readiness tools, entrepreneurship resources, funding opportunities, and events to expand your livelihood. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Let me go to Calvin out of Delaware calling in for a Reality Check. Calvin?
Mr. Ellison, how you doing?
Mr. Calvin, what's good?
Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
I was wondering, this thing with Trump, I think that he's going to try to pardon himself, him and his family, maybe invoke the 25th Amendment, maybe make Pence president and have Pence pardon him. With this guy, he's got a trick up his sleeve, because he owes over $400 million in debt, and so he's at this point now where, up to now until to January 20th, no telling what he can do, but, I just wondered what you thought about that. What this guy is going to possibly do.
As far as him pardoning himself, there's been some conversation amongst legal scholars about that, whether or not Trump can self-pardon. And so let me offer a little bit of insights on this, because this is a crew of legal scholars who talked about this in the Washington Post recently. So Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution says this, and I'm quoting it here. Presidents shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So the Supreme Court held that this particular power, Article 2, Section 2, is what's called unreviewable. And there was a case called U.S. versus Klein that said that the president's pardon power is granted, I'm quoting them, is granted without limiting, and it reiterated that, quote, Congress can neither limit the effect of his pardon nor exclude from its exercise any class of offenders. So pardons, because pardons are a combination of mercy and other things, they're often issued, this is what the legal scholars are saying, they're often issued with abandon when a president is preparing to leave office. So, there's some folks based on that and some other, really really complex legal arguments. There are a number of legal scholars who are saying that the president can't do this. He can't self-pardon.
Right.
Or if he
And
self-pardons,
also,
it's not going to stick. He may try it. He may say that he can do it. But, once he leaves office or once he's ejected from office, which it sounds like he's trying to set up, just sort of this dramatic situation where, maybe shots won't be fired, but he's trying to set up some kind of optic where he's being ejected from office. So that can rouse his followers or rouse the people that voted for him, or the couple thousand people that showed up in Washington over the weekend saying that they supported him. But go ahead.
And also, like, I think in the state of New York, that black attorney general, I know she's going to go after him. Because of all of the charges this guy has. All of the stuff.
Right.
And,
he's going to run the clock. Yeah, he's going to run the clock. And he's very skilled at this. He's been involved in 4,000 pieces of litigation over his lifetime. So at some point it'll catch up with him. We don't know when. But he's going to figure out a way to keep himself, because that's part of his business model. How do I keep myself in this public eye? I was talking to people over the weekend. At first I checked in with, our eldest daughter lives on Capitol Hill, lives in D.C. And I was like, just checking in with you, you're not going to go down to do any counter protests or anything like that. She was like, no. She's like, what for? So and I'm like, okay, that's good. Her mom and I checked in with that, because it's like, at the end of it, we need to ignore Trump and we need to ignore these folks. we really need to ignore them and kind of get on with the business of, okay, well, what's going to be the agenda? Because we've all got really big pressing issues and pressing matters of our own to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they want. They want us to be constantly riled up every day and paying attention to what he's doing and what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the time.
Hey, thanks so much, Calvin. I appreciate you. So, that would be my advice. Like, we're going to have to start getting to a point where, like, that's really kind of the best strategy here. Ignore what he's doing. Obviously you got to keep an eye on it, to make sure everything happens smoothly. He's a bully. And bullies act in sometimes unpredictable ways, but bullies are also predictable. If you don't give them that kind of oxygen, or you don't give them that kind of attention or spotlight, they fade away over time. I mean, first of all, if you like know when to snap back. I mean, look at how Biden's operating right now. You don't see Biden is just moving forward with the transition, and that rankles the current president. It rankles Trump. He wants Biden to be in the media every day talking about Trump. But notice Biden is playing it real smart. I think I got to give Biden credit on this one. He's like, and also Kamala Harris as well. They're not talking about Trump. Like, that's the least of their concerns or their worries. And that's by design. That's deliberate. And that's the way they should play it. Or these folks, like, if like Trump protesters are showing up in Philly, or they're showing up in Washington D.C. or New York, like, don't go and do a counter protest, y'all. Like cut that out. Seriously, it might be people on here. I hope folks on here who are like gearing up to go to some Trump rally would change their minds and just stay home. Like, don't do it. Like, they want you to go to the Trump. I don't understand. Like, the people who went to counter protest the Trump rally, it was like a few thousand people that showed up. Most of these folks are nuts. They're fanatics, and they're just looking for attention. And then to hear counter protesters show up, even more counter protesters showed up than the original Trump rally protesters. It's like it never dawns on you that this is what they want you to do. They want you to show up. A lot of them, when they go to these rallies, they have weapons. So, they want you to show up. They want they want some people out there to start stuff with them, to throw rocks at them, to throw projectiles, or to throw punches. So then they can show this on media and say, look, see how unfair we've been treated? And we had reason also to attack back, or to shoot them, or to stab them, or whatever. Like, just don't go to these Trump rallies. Like, stop it. Stop it. Like, we've got other bigger, more important things to focus on right now. Let me go to Gary out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Gary?
Hey, good afternoon, Charles. How you doing?
Hey, what's happening? Good afternoon.
Right. I should say good morning. Still.
Good morning. Still,
anyway,
yeah.
I just wanted to say I agree with you on what you said about the Trump people being attention seekers, and we have to really ignore that and not give them that platform to be able to create more havoc in this country. And Donald Trump's reputation precedes himself. we have a president. We haven't seen tax returns. We've seen the failure of the Trump Institute, and he's been a racist landlord. And we just have to ignore him because he's an attention seeker, and that's what he wants. But what I want to say, Charles, overall, for all politicians, whether they're on the Democrat or Republican side, we have to understand that, well, theoretically, they work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to demand things from them. And that goes with our Democratic Party, or I don't care what party you're in. We have to demand things from them. They have to serve us, the community. I mean, you look at this country, you look at the poor schooling, the police thing I wanted to speak on real quickly, defund the police. They took that out of context. Yes, we need to fund our police department to have them there to protect and serve us. But when they're not protecting or serving us and executing, I'm going to say, our young men, here's one thing I would say also. We should not be the taxpayers. Unfortunately, when this happens, these incidents occur, we should not be paying out the settlement. The police department, the FOP or whoever, should be responsible for coming up with those funds. Because the police officer just walks away and not a dime comes out of their pocket. So I just wanted to say that. Now, like you said, I just agree with you again. We have to ignore this guy. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much. I think there's one real effective way of taking care of all that, as far as that, like whether or not to fund police departments, particularly when tragedies like what we saw in Philly a few weeks ago arise. Professional liability insurance. I mean, if you really want to put the onus on the police officers and you want to have them cut it out, have them, maybe Philly could be the first big city to do this, because a lot of other small cities are starting to experiment with this, and they're having some great success with it. Require professional liability insurance for all police officers in the city of Philadelphia. Oh, they'll cut it out. And then, and other big cities will follow suit. And then taxpayers, local taxpayers, city taxpayers won't be on the hook for this. The tab is falls on the insurance companies, and then but what'll happen is that since that will be tied to the police officers' ability to make a living. Oh, those after once you have like those consistent bad acting police, who show a pattern or a trend of attacking or killing unarmed civilians, they'll stop because the insurance companies will drop them. And they are actually experimenting with this in other small cities and other townships. It's something Philly really needs to look at. City council, the mayor, particularly city council, should kind of force the issue. And there's not a high level of creative or intelligent policy discussion right now that happens on a consistent basis in Philadelphia City Council. And so I think that's something that folks really need to seriously explore because it could go a long way. Hold on one second. Tyrone out of North Philly and also Dr. Williams out of Maryland. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Why not have police officers have professional liability insurance? I mean, doctors have malpractice insurance, correct? So, and when they wrongly harm someone because of something that they didn't do correctly, then, they lose their license, or they lose that malpractice insurance, and then they can't practice medicine anymore. Same thing should apply to cops. I mean, this is just a very easy fix here. It's something, and they've done studies on it. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll take Dr. Williams out of Maryland, Tyrone out of North Philly, and whomever else calls in. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, WURD family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
WURD Radio presents the following wellness tip to support our listeners with mindfulness and motivation as we continue to navigate the pandemic together.
Hi, this is Halana, your resident health and wellness coach, with tips to help you stay well. Many of us have heard this term before, but may not know what it really means. Compassionate living brings mindfulness and peace to the center of your daily life. Compassionate living can look like this. Number 1, be gentle with yourself and those around you. Number 2, choose to speak kindly to others, even when you're upset. Number 3, become a good listener and practice empathy at home and at work. We sometimes think in order to live with compassion, we have to become someone else. Not so. In fact, allowing peacefulness to be at the center of our daily interactions is something we can practice every day. Go ahead and try it today. Stay well with WURD. Happy living.
Stay well with WURD. Connect with us at wordradio.com.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check, 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let me go to Dr. Williams out of Maryland, who's calling in for a Reality Check. Dr. Williams?
Good morning, Charles. Good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to applaud all of you at WURD for what you did to get your people there in Philadelphia to vote the right way. I mean, that just pleases me no end. Charles, when I heard of the election, who won, I started smiling. But then I watched television. I saw people dancing. With masks, without masks. I said, how foolish. How foolish can those people be? But I said, that's the way they want to express themselves? Fine. And what I followed that up with is this, is that young people, old people, now that we have won the election, we Democrats, we must start a campaign. And our campaign could be to run for a local, a state, or national office. Our campaign could also be to advance an idea that would benefit us as a people. Because you see, Charles, education is so important to me, and anybody who's ever heard my voice knows how compassionate I am about it. What I'm sharing with you right now is what I shared with your colleague, Reverend Al Sharpton. I said the same thing. We need to be focused on things that we can make a difference with. I'm an educator, graduate of St. Paul's College in Lawrenceville, Virginia, former professor at Howard University, and I know what I can do at 78 years old. I know what I can do, and all of us need to decide now what it is that we can do. Now, I want to say also, if anybody wants to know about what God has given me to promote, just go to my website, lifteveryvoiceandsing.org, or you may just read this article, Charles, and I think you would like this article. It's from the Diamondback newspaper in Maryland, University of Maryland. Meet the man who got the University of Maryland to play the Black National Anthem. And if you've been following things here in Philadelphia, you know I got Temple University to do the same thing. I got NBA teams, NCAA teams. I've got NFL teams. And people say to me, how in the world did you get through to Roger Goodell? Don't ask me, ask God. Because God is behind this movement. I did
and
get
that's good too, Dr. Williams, because we need to make sure, we need to refresh on the Black National Anthem, make sure our young people know that too. And I'm hoping that that's prompting those players, those especially the black NBA and NFL players, to get registered to vote, because we do know 80% of NBA players, at least last check before the election, were not registered to vote. So it's one thing that they're singing the Black National Anthem, but if they're not translating that into actual, tangible political action, at least doing that one simple thing, which is voting, and this is going to be just as relevant for future elections, then a lot of that's for naught. So I'm hoping that prompts them to kind of. That's why my hat goes off. I'm a big fan of LeBron James. LeBron James put them on task for that. He was like, "Are y'all registered to vote?" So I'm hoping that changed from before the election. I think it was like a few months before, they were finding 80% of NBA players were not registered to vote, because that's the question that we're not asking these athletes. Everybody wants to say the role that athletes played in the election. I don't care until I know, are they voting or not? Are they registered to vote? I don't care what Colin Kaepernick is doing or who he's getting hired by. What I understand is that he was still not registered to vote in 2020, just like he wasn't registered to vote in 2016, and did not vote in this election, as he didn't vote in the last election. I need to know if these athletes are voting, doing that one basic activity or engaging that one basic, really very easy action, exercising their voting rights. But no, thanks so much, Dr. Williams. I gotta move on. Let me go to Tyrone out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check.
Well, peace and blessings, good brother, and much love and respect to my WURD family. Hey, Brother Charles, you know what, man? That's why I always give you so much accolades, man, because for whatever reason, God just keeps you giving us the right message. And I've been listening all morning long, and the folks that gosh, I haven't won my singing moment. The folk on the show before you on, and everybody is on point in terms of where we headed and where we need to go. But Charles, you always hit it on the point. First of all, man, he's done. He's out of here. Let's start giving him more time. Now, Charles, I gotta do this, brother. Since you had the Black Male Symposium, I had asked a question, and nobody answered the question. None of the folks that was on it, nobody answered the question. So I'm gonna ask you this question once again, and please allow me to respond to your answer. And that is, and the reason why I'm answering this question is just as what you're saying, let's leave Trump alone. I'm saying, can we do things without all the things that we know are interfering and impacting what we do? My question is that if we're going to move forward, if we come up with plans, because I think that here I go again, the plan to have the human capital bond is a plan, is a worthy plan, because if they can put a bond to deal with all the capital stuff, why can't they put a bond to deal with the human stuff? Now, the city came up with this $10 million that they're supposed to be using to pull 100,000 people out of poverty.
Yeah.
$10 million ain't going to pull 100,000 people out of nothing.
No, it's
we
not.
need a bond like the $600 million bond to deal with all of the things. So that's my question. Can we deal with stuff without the baggage of knowing that all the stuff that we are caught up in and all the stuff that are coming against us? Can you respond to that, and can you please allow me to respond to your answer?
Yeah, no, so I guess your question is like, do I support or should we move forward with a bond, with a $600 million bond? I love that concept, by the way, and I got to follow up with some folks, Brother Sultan, on that. But is that the question? I think I'm getting it correct.
Okay, no, the question is, whatever we do, can we do it without saying that, we're caught up in racism? The police are gunning us down.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, I think, we always have to plan accordingly, or we always have to plan being aware of all those things that are happening around us and all those challenges that we're constantly faced with. But that shouldn't prevent us from moving forward. I just feel like, sometimes we do get a bit too, let's put it like this, overly immersed. We should be paying attention to when addressing those issues, addressing issues like, police violence, addressing issues like, the daily onslaught of systemic racism from white people, right? The daily assaults and invasions on our humanity. Yeah, that's always going to be the case. I mean, well, that's always going to happen. Now we've always got to be in there for that fight. But what happens is that it stops a lot of us in our tracks. It prevents us from moving forward on those structural issues.
Thank you.
That's why, and I don't think that it should. I think that we should, continue to plan, and we should continue to move forward. And I mean, the pillar issues for me heading into 2021 are health, wealth, and education. And everything else gets resolved. Everything flows from there, and everything gets resolved once you get those pillar issues intact. So, for example, education. Your community can't go anywhere if it's illiterate. Health. A community can't really do anything, can't do much of anything if it's overcome with chronic disease and illness, if it's sick or if it's dying. Wealth. You can't much control anything if you don't have any money in your pockets or if you have no generational wealth. Right. So, I mean, get those three, that should be the Black agenda for 2021, and just the Black agenda moving forward. And, those other things, obviously we have to address those, and we always have to be in a defensive posture, and we have to be ready to take on those assaults, but that shouldn't slow us down from achieving those foundational issues. I hope that answers your question, Tom.
Yes, it does. Now, Charles, you hit it again right on point. The thing is, if we always want to plan from a place of negativism, or this is in the way, that's in the way, we're not going to be able to have a positive outlook on it because we're too busy thinking about the negative things that we are battling to keep us sharp on what we are focused on doing.
I think to your point, thank you, Tyrone. I think to your point, I mean, folks can complain all day, but what's your plan? And I love, and there's some very smart folks that listen to WURD every day, and I know that everyone has it within them to come up with those kinds of creative plans. I can't come up with all of them, but I know people out there have creative ideas. So it's more important for these discussions to turn into brainstorming sessions for future solutions, more so than there's a lot of things going. There's a lot of things that I would love to complain and gripe about all day, but it doesn't do us any use if we're just stuck in a position where these things are these daily assaults are happening and we're not doing anything about it. We're not responding in a way that's productive. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much time, but I appreciate the question, Tyrone. I understand where you were going with it. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
Yeah, I'd like to just give a shout out to Troy for doing a great job. But listen, I want to go back to the beginning of your show. The reason why the school board is not working because they're not paid. You can't have people of privilege over our children that don't need to work. All they got to do is come in there because they have no fear of not doing a good job because they was volunteering all the time. You need to have a little paycheck pressure. It's like if I don't do my job, I'm not getting paid. All this coming in, that's like most of those people in school board probably don't even know what a gallon of milk costs or what affordable housing is because they're privileged. So
I agree with that. I agree. I feel like school board members should be paid, especially with a system, a school system as big as Philly. Yeah.
Right. We talked about this years ago, Charles. Okay. Now the other question with your other panel, I don't think it's fair that you keep Dr. Porter from the public in your private conversations, but you need to leave her open to the public. But you asked why black men have voted for Republican. It's simple. The Democrats always lie. They make us promises they never keep. And just a lot of black men are just tired of listening to these promises, which are never kept. So whether Trump is good or bad, they're just not going to vote Democrat no more door because they tired of the lies.
So what accounts for the majority of black men? What accounts for the majority of black men voting for Joe Biden?
City. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, no, it's Democratic city, but what accounts for the majority, the vast majority of black men voted for Joe Biden?
In the country, right?
Yeah.
We're the poorest big city, right? Run by Democrats. Has being a Democrat in this city have helped the black community at all?
Right.
Not one step. 2.5% before COVID is only in black business in a city that's over 40% black, and we don't have businesses. Yeah. We can't even hire ourselves because we don't have the businesses to even do that. That's why black people have did crazy things like vote Republican or not vote at all because they don't see nothing happening. They look out their door and they see absolutely nothing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, but I still want to. I actually agree with you, Maurice, but I have to ask you a question. At the end of the day, 80% of black men voted for Joe Biden. I mean, did I lose something here? Okay, so like if you get an 80% on a test, that's a B, and you more than pass. But everybody's focused on the F.
Political talk.
I understand that, but I'm just saying. I understand that it is a conversation that You're right. Democrats in cities like Philadelphia are faced with a reckoning, and they're going to have to have that conversation. I don't feel like that should influence big national elections like the one we just went through, because you're mixing apples and oranges there, because it's just different levels of political action and political considerations that are taking place. But no, I hear you. I actually agree with you on that point.
You know what that does? That divides the black. That they're trying to get us to argue with our own black women, who is the strongest force. They want us to have a little animosity to each other, like black men are not pulling their load. So if some of us decide to use our own mind and vote the way we want to vote, that we're not living up to the black standard. That's a trick that Republicans put on us, and we're falling into the trap. But this is the last thing I want to say, the most important thing.
Democrats putting the trick on us too, but go ahead.
Yeah, but when I've been asking you to reach out to Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, you know why I was saying that?
Yeah.
Because right now, I really think that you could have been on the Biden ticket. You could have been in the White House, press secretary, or somewhere in the administration, because everybody would have had to come to you to get the feeling of Pennsylvania. I told you that Pennsylvania, you knew it yourself, was the biggest ticket in the country, and you would have been the main man everybody would have to go to. It was my little suggestion, because I think you're bigger than you are, D. I think you need to be on the real CNN without sellouts like Van Jones and Don Lemon, puppets. That's who they are. I'm tired of seeing them looking into the camera, smiling and asking us the same stupid questions that we already know the answers to, and acting like they're informing us of something. So
well, I appreciate that, Maurice.
Black folks up there telling us the truth, and I think you're the future of black politics, and that's the only reason I was saying that, because right now you should be sitting around with the Biden people right now and giving out the issues that black people in Pennsylvania need to hear, because I think you're the truth. Because I tried it with other people, and they're not trying to listen. So, Charles, thank you, and don't take Miss Porter away from me. I want to see you after work.
All right, we're trying not to take Miss Porter away from you, but I'm gonna pass that along to her. She might be listening in as well, Maurice. She appreciates you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the good words. Doing it in his own special Maurice way. Let me go to the. But thank you for that, Maurice. Point taken. No, seriously, point taken. Some things being worked on. Let me go to George out of Center City, who's calling in for a reality check. George.
And how you doing today, Charles?
Hey, what's happening?
Let me say this, Charles. First, I'm going to try to run through a few things real quick. First, this thing about insuring the police, please, don't even waste your time on it, because...
Why not? Why not?
Because McNesby would never let it happen. It would never happen.
Why not?
I just told you.
Well, why not? Why wouldn't McNesby make it happen? I think other cities are doing it. I mean, why not go ahead? Everyone, why have a situation where, police are in a situation where they don't handle it correctly, and then suddenly the city's on the tab for their mistake?
Well,
put that onus on. I mean, that saves everyone trouble. That actually saves McNesby trouble, because then he doesn't have to be put in the uncomfortable spot of always having to defend bad actor police or police who aren't doing their job properly. Just let the insurance companies take care of it.
That's why they elected him to the spot he's in, and that's his job. What I'm saying is, though, I agree with you 100% that they should be liable and have paid for their own insurance. But the first thing they say is, well, they don't make much as a doctor. They don't make much as a lawyer. They will come on what they don't make, which they make good money. But then again, you know, you have to look at the top for bad behavior, okay? If we had a better police commissioner who knew how to handle these jokers with this foolishness that they do, this buffoonery, it would be run better. It would be better. But
then, wait a second. But then, don't we? But we're always saying what McNesby wants. But then it always sounds. It doesn't sound like the police commissioner ever, whether it's Danielle Outlaw or the commissioners before her. To me, George, it never sounds like the police commissioner or the mayor is running the police department. It always sounds like to me McNesby is running the police department.
He is.
Why is that? But what that doesn't bother folks like that. I'm a little bit bothered by that. Like the way it's supposed to be is the mayor is the boss and the police commissioner is the boss taking the mayor's orders.
There are rules and there are laws, and the state makes them, okay?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so, you know, we can sit here and fool ourselves with wishful things that we'll never get. And that's what we basically do. Be wishing for things that we can't get. You don't like something, get your legislators to change the law. I mean, they play by what's the law and what the rules are. You give them a set of rules, and that's what they play by. Now, the mayor can say what he wants, just like gun laws. You can say all you want about gun laws, but the state controls them. Right? Okay, so, you know, enough of that foolishness there. We can go on. Second thing is, with the
I think we should still explore. But go ahead. Yeah, I got you.
With the school board, that's the biggest joke of all. I mean, that's a geriatric center. You know, a rich geriatric center where you got all those people from the street administration and Rendell administration. They basically don't even know what the update of anything is. They just there to vote the way they're told. I mean, they've all got 2 or 3 pensions. They all living wealthy. They just have something to do to sit on the board. I mean, it's a waste of time. That's why they dummy down. You ever notice that they don't really try to educate the kids? You know why? They give everybody a tutoring contract. Look at all the tutors. They're all connected to people who are in political positions. I mean, so it don't pay for them for you to be smart. They want you to be dumb so somebody can tutor them that don't do a good job at that. And then the next thing they say, well, the kid might have psychological problems. They set them on. It's a big money thing. This thing here, y'all keep talking about this $1 million, this whatever it is, this $10 million for this homes thing. You notice that it's a nonprofit that's going in? Duh, dummies. Don't you know that every mayor has that thing in his last term? Look at John Street. He had the thing of, I forgot the name of it, but his wife ran it. You know, Naomi Street ran it. As soon as Nutter got in there, he gutted it. But Street destroyed all the community, the NAC offices and everything, you know. And, you know, he put everything under that. And it was a nonprofit, but it was part of the city. You look at this thing here where they talk about putting that money in that. That's a thing to pay off friends and friends' friends and cousins and all that there and lobbyists and contractors. I mean, stop living in a fantasy world and look at where your money really go and what they do with it. Everybody get all hyped up on nothing. I mean, they don't want to face reality. And, you know, this weekend, you know, Biden's people and Trump's people, they pay people good money just to listen to talk radio across the country. That's all they do. And basically they listen to black talk more than they listen to anything. When they was listening here in Philadelphia, you know what they were afraid of? That elected officials was getting called out. But then you had a bigger crowd of suck-ups than anything, and they looked at what Philadelphia was getting was nothing. That's why Trump kept thinking that he could pull votes out of Philadelphia, because blacks weren't getting anything. You got black leadership and nothing for it. Not leadership as a part of the mayor, but leadership as a part of county.
I gotta let you go to George. Yeah, there's some interesting points. Yeah, definitely food for thought. I gotta let you go because I gotta go to break. I don't want to take up too much time here. Let me take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we're supposed to be talking with Mitchell Little, who's the executive director of the Philadelphia Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. You're going to talk about the number of Philadelphians who are still eligible for federal stimulus payments and other issues as well. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking to Mitchell Little of Philadelphia's Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. The school year is underway, but never before has that experience come in so many shapes and sizes. Is the education of your child being left to a smattering of clumsy in-person and virtual instruction? The COVID-19 crisis has created a market for untested virtual teaching models lacking true credibility. Maybe it's time to reconsider and exercise your choice. Maybe it's time to check out Commonwealth Charter Academy. Here are the benefits to your family. 1, an online education provided at no cost to you, complete with laptop, headset, and help with internet access. 2, partnership with the market leader in cyber education with a nearly 20-year track record of world-class learning. And 3, delivery of a safe, reliable, and comfortable education experience over the internet directly to the confines of your living room. Visit ccaeducate.me today and discover the gold standard of cyber education. That's ccaeducate.me.
PECO has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. If your heating and cooling system is more than 20 years old, it may be time for your contractor to replace it with a high-efficiency Energy Star certified model. You'll get a rebate from PECO and save on your monthly electric bill. You'll find a list of new heating and cooling system rebates at peco.com/rebates. Or you can call 1-888-5-PECO-SAVE for all the details. Plus, find instant discounts on smart thermostats and more at peco.com/marketplace. There's free shipping on orders over $49.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the Mattress Man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. Mitchell Little is Executive Director of the Philadelphia Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. Go to phila.gov, as always, learn more about what your city government's up to and the various offices within, under the mayor and within City Hall. phila.gov. Mitchell joining us by phone here on Reality Check. Mitchell, how are you doing?
Hey, Charles. Thanks for having me. I'm doing okay.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. So there are still like federal stimulus payments that are out there that are floating out there for, I think it's approximately 64,000 Philly households. That's a lot of people. So how did that all, I think it's like about $77 million in unclaimed funds. How did that happen? How did that happen where these stimulus payments didn't reach these households in time?
Yeah, so I think those numbers are staggering. $77 million in Philadelphia, not in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And so I'll tell you how it happened. I mean, this opportunity is geared for folks who've had really little income or no income in 2019. Mm-hmm. So folks who got the stimulus packet, the stimulus payment already sort of mailed out were folks who filed their taxes. And so if you filed your taxes, you had a bank account, you saw that automatically in your bank account one day. You looked and saw $1,200, right?
Yeah.
Or more if you have qualifying kids, which you could get $500 more for each qualifying kid, or another $1,200 for a spouse. So, you know, folks could make out $3,000, $3,400 in their bank account. But this opportunity, the 64,000 people that we're looking at, are folks who did not apply, who made less than $12,200 in 2019, or have had little to zero income. So folks who are walking around saying, well, I'm not eligible. I'm not going to do it. Doesn't apply to me. Or I don't have a bank account. Hey, listen, it does apply to you. You can get your $1,200 if you go to IRS.com and you use the non-filers tool and request your economic impact payment. And it's just as simple as that. And so there's $77 billion sitting on the table waiting for folks to apply. And so if you've got
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Charles.
Oh, no. Finish that last point, Mitchell. I'm sorry.
No, if you've gotten it as a Philadelphian, you know your cousin or your brother who hasn't gotten it, you know your grandparent who may be in a care facility who hasn't gotten it, you know somebody who may be in county or federal or state penitentiary who hasn't gotten it, with some help, they can apply and they can get those dollars too. And it doesn't matter if you owe on your student taxes or you live in public housing. You're eligible for these funds, and you'll get all of it. So this is not a game. This is not a con. This is not the government in your business. This is something that you are entitled to because of the impact of COVID, and this can help you through what will be a cold winter in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Are people, maybe they're aware that they can receive these stimulus payments, but if there are no filers, are they afraid that, okay, suddenly that sort of puts them on the radar for filing taxes when they feel like they're not in a position to do so?
Yeah.
Is that part of the reluctance there?
Yeah, that's exactly why my message is the way that it is, right? Because I understand that fear of getting put on the radar or applying for something, because folks have had those real experiences, applying for something, anticipating something like your regular federal income refund, and then you see that it's gone to a debtor, right? But this is not that case. This is not sort of taxable income, and again, it's been made available for folks to get them through COVID. So trust me, go online and
so
apply.
they could trust the city of Philadelphia, but what about the? When it comes down to it, a lot of people don't trust and for good reason, they don't trust the Trump administration, because this is still the Trump administration's IRS that we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. So I think what helps that is they know somebody who's already gotten it, right? Okay. And so I don't think there's anybody in Philadelphia who has not seen or knows somebody who's already gotten these dollars. And they could be living in the same household. So I think it's important to apply for it. And if you need help, and if you need a sort of trusted intermediary to talk it over, to better understand it, contact the United Way. They have a hotline set up. That number is 844-322-3639. If you need to fill it out a little bit and ask some questions before you apply, then go ahead and do that, and they can help you understand the tool better. But we have until Saturday, folks. November 21st is the deadline. And you're going to get that money back before the end of the year. And so folks know that Thanksgiving is coming, Christmas is coming, the dead of winter. And so you can use those extra dollars. And never before have I seen federal dollars made available with such a low bar of applying for it. Oftentimes, as systems, we make it harder for people who are hurting getting assistance. So these lengthy application forms, or these really tough processes to work through. This is just clicking on a link on the IRS website, filling out a few questions, and seeing if you're eligible, and then you're going to get it before December 31st. So that money is going to come back to you. And if you don't have a bank account, it'll come in check form through the mail. So don't let the checking account or the banking account issue be a deterrent in applying as well.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, so it's a lot of money. This is $77 million for 64,000 Philadelphians or 64,000 Philadelphia households. So you might be missing. You might be out there. You might be missing out on a $1,200 payment if it's just you alone, $2,400 if you're married, if it's a married couple, and you're filing jointly, and with up to $500 for each qualifying child. So for a married family of 4, that would be a maximum of about $3,400. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that could be very useful, as you said, heading into the holidays. I mean, just in general, particularly if people just have, like, they got to eat and they're looking for that extra money, or there's certain bills that they have to pay. If you were a married couple with 2 children, that's $3,400. If we're seeing that correctly, right? Yeah, $3,400 right there. Yeah, that's some. And so they should call the United Way. I mean, one thing to do, if you're worried about calling the IRS directly, start off with the United Way Economic Impact Payments Hotline, 844-322-3639. The Benephilly Centers, right? They can also check out the Benephilly Centers.
Yeah,
they can also contact them.
The beautiful thing about the Benephilly Centers is you can contact them about this, or if you think you might be eligible for other benefits, They can walk you through a screening process, which is a little longer. In about 30 minutes, screen you for about 19 or so benefits, and that's TANF and SNAP and some homeowner protection benefits. So that's really a great tool and a resource for folks. And there are benefit centers that are staffed in your neighborhood, like Philadelphia Fight, which is downtown, but serving a particular population, and United Communities in South Philly, or Catholic Social Services. And so, again, we work through trusted partners, folks who already have relationship with community members. Community members have already seen the benefit of what these providers can assist communities members with. And so we're asking them to help get the word out, but also help in supporting some of these folks. And the number to the Benefili centers are 844-848-4376. And again, if you speak English or Spanish, folks can help you out.
Okay. All right. Got it. So that's definitely, folks want to chime in with that, seeing if we have. If you already, somebody had a question here on Facebook Live. Sure. Calvin, if you already got your stimulus check, can you apply for this? I would assume the question is no, or what's the answer to that?
That is correct. If you've got it, you've got it. But that doesn't stop you from telling somebody else that they should go get it too. And you being a trusted messenger, whether it's somebody in your community, at your church, or place of worship, or in your family. But I'm thinking about folks in incarceration, quite frankly. What does it look like? Some additional dollars on their books to help them make it through, or help folks get up there to see them once COVID is all over with. So those type of things. Or you got folks who are just vulnerable, couch surfing, living at a level of vulnerability. That $1,200 can be really helpful. Taking the pressure off, right? So help out your neighbor, help out your family member.
Beyond, we got to get the word out, obviously, about this. You're talking about nearly $100 million worth of cash being infused into the Philadelphia economy that people are missing out on. But what else is on the horizon as well, Mitchell, as far as your office, what you're working on, what you're being focused on? The city, like everywhere else, is going through pandemic. The coronavirus cases are surging. That's obviously having an economic impact. We're also in a phase of economic meltdown on a lot of levels, and I'm sure you're watching those indicators in the city get worse as far as poverty and things like food insecurity. What are some big projects, or what are some big sort of platform issues that you're focused on right now to try to alleviate that situation?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. So we are looking to support families and individuals and communities during the coronavirus. We know that this pandemic has really hit communities of color and low-income communities in a drastically different way, and we want to respond in the same way. And so we've sort of broken out our approach into three specific sections. And so the response section is like, how are we helping distressed communities in the moment? And so some of that includes like a big initiative that we're launching is in support of barbershops and beauty salons in low-income communities to help them sort of stay in business and stave off the risk of closing up or firing employees. The sort of repair piece. So we're looking at sort of supporting nonprofits and civics and community organizations so that they can continue to provide informal and formal support within communities, those things that don't always hit the radar, but figuring out how to support that man or woman or small group that's just doing it from the muscle, right? Understanding what their community needs and trying to help in any way that they can, and oftentimes using their own resources to do it. And then being thoughtful about what we understand as this coronavirus changes and the impact of it changes as it rages on, and then try to be a part of a larger recovery effort with other city departments and our state legislature, and hopefully assistance from the federal government will change, and there'll be more support and coordination with the federal government in these upcoming months in ways in which they have presented lately.
Real quick, Mitchell, and I'm not sure if you can answer this, but I'm just curious. It kind of came to mind as we're talking about what to do with the city as far as economic development. But some folks out there are talking about a bond, like an investment bond, like they're talking about Philly would need or require. Like we always have voters approve in the city major municipal bonds to improve infrastructure in the city, want to improve municipal buildings. Some people are starting to say, hey, maybe we should look at a $600 million social impact bond. Is that a discussion that's taking place or that's being explored in City Hall?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of a sort of municipal bond as an economic driver is a discussion that's happening not only here but nationally. Ryan Boyer is a guy who's leading in some of those discussions around the country, and I think that as things continue to develop and we think about recovery efforts here, not only in the city but regionally, I think we have to think differently and imagine differently, and I think that we have to maintain sort of this growth mindset. Understanding the restrictions, and they are great. The economic impact of the pandemic here has had a toll on the ability not only the city to perform sort of routine and regular services, but also some of the things that we intended to do to create change in communities moving forward. But it also allows us the space to sort of reimagine what the future it looks like. And it's also given us an opportunity to do things differently and to learn from that. So the way that we've been able to respond during COVID, we need to cultivate those efficiencies and innovation and add that to our thinking as we move the city forward. Because there are ways in which we responded differently. We've galvanized between the city and the business community and certainly people in neighborhoods, again, who've been doing this tirelessly and have created a level of support that I've never seen in my lifetime, in my 20 years in both nonprofit and city government. It's just the response and the pride for our city and the care for our people, I think, that has to just continue on.
All right. We've been talking with Mitchell Little, Executive Director of the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity for the City of Philadelphia. Those numbers again, Mitchell, real quick, so people know to call so they don't miss out on that stimulus payment. They should United Way EIP hotline. I'm sorry,
$77 million, folks. Please, before Saturday, November 21st, use the non-filers tool on the IRS website. But if you need help, if you need connection to those services, or if you need to ask some questions, get more information, contact the United Way hotline at 844-322-3639.
All right. And, definitely want IRS.gov, obviously go to the IRS non-filer tool, but that's a great, if folks are a little hesitant, have the United Way hold your hand through it, 844-322-3639. Thanks so much, Mitchell. Appreciate your time. We'll have you again.
Hey, Charles, pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
All right, same here. Take care. All right, let's take a break, and phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Save the date. Friday, December 4th from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. for the 5th annual WURD Empowerment Experience. And this year, the virtual and on-air event will be extra special as we celebrate the career of radio veteran Cody Anderson and discuss the importance of independent black media. For more details about the 2020 WURD Empowerment Experience or to RSVP, visit wordradio.com and stay tuned to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Calvin Moody on Facebook Live, thanks for that question, appreciate that. Kenrick Talbot, what was he saying here? The legislators won't change the laws. That's the problem. And Kenrick Talbot making some other comments as well. Yeah, it was just there's a lot of comments here. Kenrick Talbot also making the point that more funding for HBCUs like University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Morgan State, Bowie State, Howard, UDC, Coppin State, and others as well. So yes, got to get that funding stream going for those HBCUs and bolstering them. I'm not a product of an HBCU. I didn't go to an HBCU, but I do understand and appreciate the role that they play, that they even could be playing. There's still a whole lot of untapped potential there from HBCUs. 215-634, so thanks for those. The legislators will change the laws, by the way, Kenrick, if strategic pressure is being applied. And I mean, that's the way the laws get changed. And people are going to have to be a lot smarter and a lot more persistent and really savvy about how they go about that, and they're going to have to participate more. There's going to have to be a lot more participation at the voting booths. There's going to have to be a lot more participation in terms of the advocacy follow-up, the lobbying, the community lobbying follow, because, you know, people in the community can be lobbyists too. You don't have to be like this 6-7 figure earning highly educated or wealthy company affiliated lobbyists to organize your community and to make those kinds of changes. And we were just having this conversation last week about City Council Live about how people can leverage those public comment periods, and you have to do that in a very organized and methodical fashion. Obviously, those public comment periods are reserved for residents who want to make comments on pieces of legislation that are being discussed and talked about. I'm trying to figure out something. I have something in mind, actually based on a couple of ideas from people who were listening to City Council Live, and they were like, I think I was talking about doing, like PSA spots, maybe here on WURD, telling people about like public comment periods. We just saw like a few weeks ago, a bunch of white people down at Society Hill lived in the Society Hill section of Philadelphia. That was a lobbying action. And even in the middle of a pandemic, while you've got all this high poverty happening in the more distressed parts of the city, they made sure that their particular issue, some obscure issue on zoning in Society Hill, which was important to them, though, to relatively affluent, well-to-do, well-off folks in Center City, Philadelphia, they made sure that got addressed and it got voted on. And it got voted on the way they wanted it to get voted on. So, people have to be, you shouldn't just use those moments to then open up the floor and then scream into the microphone. Like, have a plan as you go about it, but understand, like, your normal average residents in a city like Philadelphia can organize too, and they can fundraise. They can do the same exact things that the political practitioners and political professionals do. So, voting is not the end all be all. There's this whole system of things or activities that can be engaged in after those elections take place. But the first big part of it is if you want change, you want legislators to listen to your needs or your demands, and you want them to act on them, you got to first participate, folks. So still have a situation where a lot of people didn't pay attention to, and state legislators in places like Philly didn't draw a lot of attention to the state legislative races in Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. So like the Pennsylvania State House did not flip, and the Pennsylvania State Senate did not flip from Democrats to Republicans. So I mean, if people are okay with, and if the state legislators in places like the Philly area are okay with now us hearing another 2 years of 2 to 4 years of excuses about why they can't get things done because Republicans run Harrisburg, I don't know what to tell you. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also, what are folks planning on doing for Thanksgiving? Because I saw this very troubling poll. It was a survey from Ohio State University just came out, where I caught wind of it over the weekend. 40% of Americans, 40%, 4 out of every 10 Americans are planning on having large gatherings at their households during Thanksgiving. So this is like the equivalent of, I was just having this conversation the other day with someone. It's the same equivalent, right? Or it's the same exact thing as when you tell your children, you tell your kids, hey, listen, I need you to cover your mouth when you sneeze and cough, especially when you're in public. Like that's how I was raised, right? Like, my folks would get on, like, you gotta cover. So, you just grew up, like, that's how we grew up. You cover your mouth when you sneeze, especially when you cough in public. And then, but this particular situation where you have 4 out of 10 Americans saying they're just gonna have large gatherings at their household during Thanksgiving anyway, is the same thing as if when you tell your kids, hey, listen, cover your mouth when you sneeze and cough in public, and the kids are just like, well, I ain't gonna listen to that. I'm just gonna do whatever I want. I'm not gonna cover my mouth for what? And then and some kids do that, right? They just keep on coughing and you see them, like, sometimes they just keep on coughing, like, in public, or when we were able to meet in public spaces, sometimes you'd be at church and the kid behind you, they're coughing on your neck. It's like, what are the parents doing? Like, tell your kid to cover their mouth, right? This is the exact same thing. And these are grown people, these are grown adults who are defying basic public health guidance. I don't know. We had Congresswoman Madeline Dean on here, and she was very much correct. It was very simple, but she laid it out correctly. If we had 95% compliance with 4 basic instructions, I mean, basically wearing the mask, socially distancing, staying away from crowds, testing and contact tracing. Boom, boom, boom. 4 things. That's it. It's that simple. It's not rocket science. And people still refuse to do it. People are still going to, we have like a situation, there's going to be a whole lot of folks out there and who are still going to meet. I just wanted to throw that out there to WURD listeners. Like, are you really getting ready to do that? I think you can hold off for one Thanksgiving so you can get to the next Thanksgiving either alive or not held down by a lifetime of chronic disease. Because if you survive coronavirus, you may end up with complications a little bit later on down the road. That risk heightens, particularly if you already are dealing with chronic diseases. So I know there's a lot of people out there who, get it and they survive through it, but one, it has a fatality rate that is 10 times higher than the flu. That's one. And then 2, you have to now worry about potential complications that you otherwise would not have had. So you have to worry about that. That's going to hang over you, even if you survive COVID-19. And it's a very scary thought, but all the more reason why people should just follow basic public health guidelines. Just people refuse to do that. It kills me. Like, I don't get it. And then they're putting other people at risk. They're putting my family at risk, putting my children, just because they want to meet for Thanksgiving dinner, can't wait till the next Thanksgiving. Because what good is this Thanksgiving going to do you if you're not around the next Thanksgiving or the Thanksgiving after that or the Thanksgiving after that? Like, it's just, it just defies all logic that people are actually considering that. I'm glad Professor Parker was talking about earlier on when we had him on Reality Check Roundtable. He was like, we're just taking my family, we're taking cautions. It's just going to be us, the immediate family. And we had an emergency room physician. It was a young brother who was on here last week up at the University of Chicago. And he's like, keep it to your immediate family, please. Just the people that are already in your house, and everyone else can join you by Zoom. We have this wonderful technology available. Everyone wants to use it at every other time. You want to take selfies on Instagram all day or being on Facebook, wasting otherwise productive time, snapping at folks all day. And I mean, you spend time, any other time, to use the technology, you want to overuse it. This particular time, you should really be using the technology and overusing it. You don't want to do it. You want everybody to like crowd up in your house, half mask with the noses hanging out or with no mask at all. And then not just put them at risk in that house, but also put other people. It just defies all logic. That's a lot of people. That's 40% of the American population potentially saying that they're going to do huge crowds on Thanksgiving. And in fact, it's bad because you even have elected officials. There's a major county elected official in the state of Oregon who's defying he's a Republican, and he's defying the Democratic governor's mandate for people not to meet in large numbers during Thanksgiving. He's just saying that that's wrong. So he's going to have he's encouraging people in his county, and he's saying, my family, we're all going to have one big happy gathering on Thanksgiving. And he's doing this publicly. And so it's just very troubling and alarming. Like people that desperate and that pressed can't just wait one holiday, one set of holidays. It boggles the mind. Yeah, it really does. I mean, there's just no other way to put that. But maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Would love to hear from folks to see what their Thanksgiving plans are and if they're going to practice being safe during the holidays, during Thanksgiving. All right. Also, don't forget to represent your support for WURD Radio, Philly's Black-owned Black Talk radio station. Today is the last day to get your free WURD sweatshirt when you join or renew your 4WURD membership. So use the code SAVESPACE, as in the new show Save Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. Go to wordradio.com, join now, and use the code SAVESPACE to rep Black Talk Media. All right. That wraps this Monday edition. Midday edition of Reality Check. Don't forget to go to the B Note, a fantastic piece of thought piece from our regular contributor G.S. Potter at the B Note, our companion magazine to Reality Check on WURD, THEBenote.com. The title of it is, okay, Biden won, so what next? She gives some real good strategic instructions on where we go next. So check it out at thebenote.com. Catch me on twitter.com at Ellison Report. Also hashtag Word on Politics as well. Hashtag Reality Check. I want to thank Troy one more as well. Yeah, everyone should thank Troy at the Board of Steel getting that work done. Looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 10 a.m. sharp on Tuesday, God willing. In the meantime, everyone wants you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, stay safe out there. And hope you have a great afternoon and a good evening. Hope to see you tomorrow. We come up with, we got The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next here on WURD. So you want to keep your radio dial, your WURD TV dial locked in for The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next here on WURD. Everyone, take care.